and Wales in particular Monday evening. The chance of some showers, but the southeast, unfortunately, where we really need the rain, looks like staying mostly dry. A greater chance of some showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures slowly returning to average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to Orla Santi by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating with an incredible £60,000 to be won. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, former Conservative MP Anna Firth, and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Coming up in my niggle, I'll be taking Labour grandee Harriet Harman to task over her mission to ban men from becoming the next Labour leader. And seriously, it's desperate. And then, of course, after 60,000 migrants stormed the theatre, people smugglers are reportedly slashing the price of channel crossings to Britain to as little as £500 as they cash on in Europe's migration crisis. And our first Great British debate this hour, I'm asking, should the UK copy Spain's example to end the migrant crisis? You know what they did? They sent them back, exactly, immediately. The Chancellor, John Healey, has warned supermarkets that he won't let them take customers for a ride as the war in Iran continues to hit prices. So in the next Great British Debate of this hour, I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? And that's the topic of my poll. Go to gbnews.com and cast your vote. Then in the interview, joining me, former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood. Now, he's also a former Army captain, and he'll be discussing his new book. He'll be live in the studio. That book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. We'll find out more about that. But before we get started, your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Nana, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB Newsroom at 1 minute past 3. Donald Trump says he's cancelled a major attack on Iran as a peace deal may be close. On Truth Social, the US president said he and Israel had paused the assault on Tehran, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal, which would include the immediate opening of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. But he also warned Tehran the US remained locked and loaded and ready to go. Iran has not yet responded. The new Chancellor has issued a stark warning to supermarkets, urging them to stop profiteering as the Iran war continues to hit prices. John Healey says he won't allow them to take the public for a ride as a result of the crisis in the Middle East. He's vowed to watch closely for any suggestion that customers are being ripped off, either when shopping for essential groceries or when filling up their car at the petrol pump. The Chancellor will deliver his first budget in October, promising a plan built on so-called fiscal discipline. Spanish authorities say 53,000 of the 60,000 migrants who crossed into the small Spanish territory of Ceuta have now returned to Morocco. 86 people were killed in the sudden mass surge across the border. It's led to division between some European politicians, with EU ministers due to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday to discuss border security. It comes amid reports that people smuggling gangs are cutting the price of channel crossings to Britain, offering places on small boats for £500. Well, more than 2,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel in small boats since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. It's after more than 300 made the journey yesterday. That brings the total for the year so far to more than 14,500, which is 40% lower than the same period last year. The Prime Minister claims the government's plan to stop the crossings is working, but that there's a lot more still to do. At least 5 people have died and 41 are missing after a ferry caught fire off the coast of an Indonesian island. The ferry, which was carrying 271 passengers and crew members, caught fire off Indonesia's Madura Island. It's understood more than 220 have been rescued, with search efforts ongoing. 3 people have been killed and 21 injured after a homemade bomb exploded at a restaurant in Moscow. Russian state media says an improvised explosive device was detonated by an unnamed woman who allegedly smuggled it into the Italian restaurant yesterday evening. There are unconfirmed reports that a birthday celebration for a general was taking place at the time. And soprano star Vincent Pastore has died at the age of 80. The actor, whose portrayal of Salvatore Bonpensiero won him acclaim, he died at his home in New York. His co-stars from the HBO series have since paid tribute, calling him a beloved friend and collaborator. Those are the latest headlines. Let's get back to Nana.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's just coming up to 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Right, coming up this hour, after 60,000 migrants stormed theatre, people smugglers are now reportedly slashing the price of channel crossings to Britain to as little as 500 quid. as they cash in on Europe's migration crisis. And in the first Great British debate of this hour, I'll ask, should the UK copy Spain's example to end the migrant crisis? They sent in the army to deal with 60,000 migrants who crossed the border, and then with no sign of the small boats stopping, I'm wondering what we should be doing. So in the Great British debate, I'm asking, should the UK copy Spain's example to end the migrant crisis? In the next Great British debate this hour, I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? Chancellor John Healey says that he won't let supermarkets take the public for a ride as the Iran war continues to push up prices. So I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? And as ever, we'll cross live to Los Angeles and speak to the host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Duddridge, as Donald Trump says that Greenland will be under US control by the time he leaves office. Well, that's all on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts. You can scan the QR code that you see on the screen, or why not post your comments? gbnews.com/your say. So let's start with the latest on the migrant crisis. And it's been reported that people smugglers, the gangs, are hoping to cash in on Europe's migration crisis by slashing the price of channel crossings to Britain. Traffickers are reportedly offering places on small boats for as little as £500. That is after the unprecedented surge of around 60,000 migrants into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta this week. Our reporter Doogie Beattie has been there for the past few days, and we can hear from him now.
Just over 48 hours ago, over 60,000 people emptied across the border from Morocco into this part of the EU, which belongs to Spain. It caused chaos, many deaths, and huge problem for the infrastructures in this area of Spain. The government here really dealt with this by cutting off water, cutting off food supplies, and denying anyone of shelter. Now, it is extremely hot here, and to be exposed to this every hour on hour and not having any water was causing problems. So day one, they managed to get most of them back across the border. There was nothing here for them. Day two became a little more tricky because what was left was starting to burst water mains, hack into people's supplies just to stay alive. Then we seen this morning, as we went for breakfast in one of the only places open here, we seen about 100 youths run down the street, and they were obviously robbing places that had food. And indeed, one of them had about 2 loaves of bread, and the rest of them turned on him. It was quite scary to actually watch it happen, quite unsettling in such a beautiful area. Now, the government here is dealing with this, but it, of course, has had to switch those supplies back on and make sure that its own population is now catered for. And that makes actually finding these people and getting them out across that border that much more difficult. Now, it is the biggest game of hide and seek, and we watched just within the last few hours here the army go down onto that beach and push what migrants had actually sat on these rocks for quite a while. You can imagine that, sitting in the rocks, exposed to the sun, and no water and no food. As they pushed them round that corner behind us, there was indeed another load of army sitting there waiting to take them out and take them back to that border. I expect this will go on for many days, although security in and around the ferry terminals has been tightened quite significantly, as they're determined not to let them get into the EU.
Have it, Doogie Beattie. Great reporting, by the way, over the last few days. Well, we're joined by political commentator Eli Hassel. Eli, welcome to the programme. Well, the Spanish, Ceuta, it was obviously in Northern Africa, but it's a Spanish territory, so they have a sort of interesting relationship with their border and the EU. And I'm wondering, they were able to, well, the army got involved and the people were sent back. Why can't we, seeing as that they're in the ECHR, why can't we do the same?
Thank you for having me on, Nana. Yes, it's a really good, interesting point. We looked at that, Samuel, that part of Spain where they have 85,000 people that live in that city, and over 60,000 people came. That is not just immigration, that is basically an invasion, where you have around double the amount of people, and half of those are illegal people that came here in the past day or so. Now, there is a reason why so many people want to come to Western countries, because we have so many opportunities, we are doing so well, we are so much richer than Africa, than any of than the Middle East. As you mentioned, it's right next to Morocco. But we need to do it. But the reason why we're so good is because we're looking after our citizens. We have a good economy. We're growing well. And we do that by not having huge immigration. That's what I think, at least so far. We can't just allow in huge unchecked illegal immigration. It's just not possible for us to continue how it is. Now, there is ways that immigration benefit us. Asylum seekers, we can let in a limited amount of asylum seekers, which actually is a good thing morally to do. My great-grandmother came here to Great Britain in 1938 in the kinder transport. The UK opened their borders and let 10,000 young kids came in. My great-grandmother came in when she was 13 years old, and I am so thankful for the UK for allowing her to do so. But we can't just have 100,000 people coming in like they did last year. That just does not work for the UK. It's just impossible for us to deal with. And at the same time, we should let in a certain amount of legal migration because it could be really beneficial to our economy, whether that be for the NHS or other such professional sectors. That has to work for us. We have to decide who we let in. We can't let in unchecked, huge mass immigration. It just can't work.
But the government don't seem to be that bothered about it. They don't seem to be that perturbed by anything, really. They seem to think that that's, by the looks of it, it's almost as though they're thinking that's not really that many on the grand scheme of things, and they don't seem to have the will to want to do anything about anything.
Well, I hope that Andy Burnham does take a position, and he does take a position against this. From what I know of Andy Burnham, I've known him for the past I've met him quite a few times over the past few years. He's helped me with my non-profit and organisation that I run, and he seems to me to be a very decent man. He doesn't seem to be very that we should just do whatever the party wants. As you might well know, he was very against whips within the party, that people should be able to vote within their conscience and not just stick to those party lines. So I hope he does see, and I hope he does realise that, yes, OK, it is good to save some people who are suffering in other countries, but the priority is UK citizens. We have to make sure that we can't just let in an unlimited amount of people. Hopefully he looks at this and he'll say 100,000 people is way too much. We need to bring that number down, down, down.
But it took him 12 days to even mention it, and he only did it because he had to, because of the invasion of Ceuta in Spain, which could have implications for the UK. But that was the first time he ever really said anything about it, and he almost dismissed it, I think, in my view, as that it was some sort of hot potato that didn't really need discussing and could be just done whatever. I mean, if you don't have a country, then all your other policies fall flat.
Yes, you're right. We need to look after our country first. But I don't think this is, as far as I see it, I don't think this is Andy Burnham dismissing the issue. It's just more that he's very focused on local issues, whether that be the Iran war, he barely mentioned that, whether that be about the conflict in Israel with the war in Gaza, he barely mentioned about that. He did call for a ceasefire earlier on. He doesn't really talk about foreign issues that much. Maybe it is something that he should, hopefully one of his advisors is listening to this program and listening to you, Nana, speaking right now, and he'll say, and maybe that he should be told that, yes, he has to take more of an approach and start listening to this and start actually looking at migration, because it actually affects a lot of people.
Well, I've told him. I'm sure he probably sees, oh, not that woman again. There she is. Oh, God. Because I've been taking the mickey out of growth in every post, good hope in every heart, which is very nice, sounds lovely, but what does it actually mean? So I guess we'll see how he moves with this particular problem. But would you say that this is literally the most important issue that needs to be dealt with? Cost of living, yes, we've always got a cost of living crisis. There's always people that need to be helped. But to me, this is a risk to our country. Imagine they're offering 500 quid now to come across the channel, where it would have been maybe £2,500, somewhere between £2,500 and £5,000. They're doing it for £500. So, and they all know that when they get here, well, there's not much we can do about it. And if they chose to do here what they did in Ceuta, there's nothing we would do. If a load of them all came from France, like that, we've already had 1,000 coming in on one day. If we had 10,000 people, which isn't beyond the bounds of possibility, given what is happening currently, if that happened, what would we do?
You're right, it is a huge issue. Is it the biggest issue in the UK? I don't know, but it's definitely one of the top issues. In my view, I see other really big issues that the UK needs to put much more focus on, and that is the UK's presence on the world stage. We used to be one of the biggest countries in the world. Everybody knew about us. Now I speak to Americans, and most of them know who the UK are, but they don't know that much. We need to have a bigger presence on the world stage. That for me is one of the top priorities, and we need to have a better military. Our military, John Healey, he resigned. Yeah, well, he resigned because we didn't put enough money in. Hopefully he'll put more money in. He'll realise the importance is to have a good military. We can't have a bad military. We need to have a good military. That's so basic. That is one of the most basic things of having a country, is defending your borders. And you're right, immigration is included in that.
Well, I will say that 60,000 people arrived here all at once. I think our army is just under 70,000. We'd be in trouble. Because with all our ECHR, all they have to say is, oh, we're claiming asylum, we're refugees. Then what? You know what I mean? We've got nothing to save us. So the politicians really need to get their fingers out and do something about it. Eli Hassel, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's a political commentator. Thank you very much. All right, well, the Home Office spokesperson said that this government has been clear. Border security is national security. Since coming into office, we've prevented over 46,000 crossings and removed nearly 70,000 illegal migrants and foreign criminals. We've criminalised the online promotion of unlawful immigration services and are working with major social media companies alongside the NCA, National Crime Agency, to remove online adverts promoting dangerous small boats crossings. Wonderful. Right, though, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash. The clock is ticking. You could also get a gold bar worth £5,000. Don't miss out. Hayley Sparks has all the details.
One person is guaranteed to win over £65,000 worth of gold and cash. And that person could be you. You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner and join our exclusive list of giveaway champions. First of all, we want to give you a ton of tax-free cash. £60,000 in tax-free cash that you could use however you like. Treat your family, treat your friends, or treat yourself to a luxury 5-star holiday somewhere like here, all as Santi by Domes Resorts. Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. Stay with me still to come in my niggle. I'll tell you why Harriet Harman is wrong to claim that men should be banned from being the next Labour leader. But next in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the UK copy Spain's example to end the migrant crisis? This is GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to GB News. 22 minutes after 3 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, today is your final chance to get tickets to join us for a day to celebrate Britain.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
I should be in that. I'll be there, though. Don't miss out on the opportunity. Less than 24 hours to go. Grab that ticket. Right, now for more information, you can scan... Oh, I'm on there. That's fine. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/celebrate. All right, it's right now that it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should the UK copy Spain's example to end the migrant crisis after 60,000 people from Morocco invaded the Spanish enclave of Ceuta this week? Now, the army moved in to drive them out. There have, of course, been repeated calls for our own government to use the Royal Navy to stop the small boat arrivals. We could simply turn them back, send them back immediately, which works really well because they won't come across again because they know that the same thing will happen. It would smash the smugglers model into smithereens. But why? Why do we not do that? So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the UK copy Spain's example to end the migrant crisis, seeing as Spain also follow the ECHR rules? All right, joining me now, former Conservative MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Lewis. All right, Jonathan, we'll start with you.
Right, so the first thing to say about this particular issue, other than the fact that Ceuta is not in Schengen, so there's no risk of those people going elsewhere in Europe or on the European mainland.
Well, it's not in Schengen, but the border rules are interesting there. They're not quite as straightforward.
You have to have documents in order to go. There was no risk that they could just go to Spain, mainland. But this wasn't an example of sub-Saharan migrants that have made a long trek from other parts of Africa.
So you're saying they're all from Morocco?
I'm saying that the evidence that we have at the moment strongly suggests that this was trafficking gangs that were taking advantage of something with, I'm afraid, the cooperation, tacit or otherwise, of the Moroccan authorities.
Oh, that's okay then.
We have, just let me finish. There was plenty of anecdotal evidence that Moroccan border guards were almost pointing the way and turning the other way, because as part of a diplomatic spat between Morocco and Spain that's been going on for many, many years over Western Sahara and the non-self-governing territory to the south of Morocco, which is administered or occupied by Morocco, and Spain is trying to play both sides, Morocco and Algeria, the two main protagonists in that dispute. So in 2021, the last time we saw something like this, when 10,000 people went into Ceuta, that was after Spain treated the head of the Polisario Front, which is the main antagonist to Morocco, the leader of the independence movement of Western Sahara. Morocco got its own back by allowing these people to cross, and there was a lot of speculation that this might have happened, this latest incident might have happened because Spain, the Spanish Prime Minister recently went to Algeria to try and soothe relations with Algeria, and Morocco didn't like that. And that's why Morocco said, oh, we'll look the other way if you want to go. Obviously, there was also the issue of the Spanish Supreme Court ruling that said people can't. Okay, so the one thing is, these are specific. Okay, but you asked me, should we follow the example? And I'm pointing out that this is a very, very specific set of circumstances.
Yes, but
we can't say these are not refugees, Nanda. They haven't filed for asylum.
Well, actually, I did a little bit
of The vast majority haven't.
Well, it said that they were predominantly from Morocco. However, they said that the overwhelming arrivals were young Moroccan men fleeing economic hardship and unemployment.
Right.
They crossed the neighbouring Moroccan territory into Ceuta by swimming around the maritime sea well, simply because of, obviously Pedro Sanchez has said that if you swim there, then you couldn't really be sent back. So I'm not. I think yes, the circumstances are unique, but every country will have unique circumstances. So, for example, if France decide they want to get rid of all their economic migrants who are hovering around waiting to get across, then they could easily do that. And actually, we've seen the French border control police turn a blind eye.
Yes.
No different to the Moroccan.
The point is that these are not refugees. Is the point.
No, well, they would be if they
didn't claim asylum.
They could have done.
But they didn't.
They could have done.
What we have seen in Ceuta is a perfect example of what happens if you send the wrong signals to people. What Spain did by announcing an amnesty and then saying that with their Supreme Court judgment, they massively upped the incentives and the rewards for coming. And of course, if you do that, you see the numbers swelling. Now, that is what we are doing in our country at the moment, because if you get across in that small boat, you will get accommodation, you will get put up, you will get food, you will even get an allowance every single week. Ridiculous. You will get left-wing lawyers getting in contact with you who will help you through the asylum process.
You'll get a guidebook.
And your chances of actually being granted asylum are 60%. So in other words, you've got more chance of getting granted than refused. Well, those are the pull factors that we have.
And they're higher than that. The chances of getting, I think it's over 80% if they were right there.
Well,
it's higher
sources differ, but it's well over 50%. Now, unless we do something about those pull factors, this is going to keep happening. And what have we got to do? First of all, people have got to know if you arrive on our shores, you cannot claim asylum. If you've arrived here illegally, you cannot claim asylum. Point number one. Point number two, you don't go anywhere other than to a deportation camp. Point number two. And then point number three is you are returned either to the country you've come from or to a third country within a week.
Anna, can I ask you a question?
All three of those points, Jonathan, all three of those points. Two of those we were working on as a Conservative government. We had the big ticket deterrent in Rwanda ready to go. We should have used it. And secondly, all three of those points are in the deportation plan that Victoria's put together.
Can I ask you a question? If, for example, you are fleeing a conflict in, let's say, Sudan, where there is a conflict raging right now, You accept, I presume, that people will be fleeing their homes in that particular conflict. I expect you also accept that it's not fair that that only countries surrounding Sudan should be able to take those countries, because what you also the point is that claiming asylum isn't right.
I don't accept that at all.
But people will always try to go to Europe after that.
Because when we had people fleeing Iraq, the policy was to try and contain and help those people as near to the country as possible, so that they could go back into their own country and start to repair their own country. To me, that's logical. It doesn't make any sense for people to make a dangerous journey, thousands of miles, risking drowning in the Channel to come to England. That's completely wrong. That's the wrong incentive. That's actually a cruel policy.
The point I'm making is that when you have major conflicts like in Ukraine, after the Afghanistan imbroglio, etc., what the government did at that time was institute safe and legal routes for people fleeing that assault, because that Ukraine, you'll accept, that was an invasion of people fleeing Ukraine. Right? Okay. So what happened in Ukraine? There was a safe and legal route set up by the government so people could come straight here without having to get on the dinghies. That's why there are no Ukrainians on the dinghies. Why can't we have Sudanese going on the dinghies?
What was the fundamental thing? People coming on. I totally agree about Ukraine. The thing that was so different with Ukraine: homes for Ukrainian people. They didn't come to the UK unless they had a home
because the government set up a safe and legal route. If they hadn't done, then Ukrainians would have been on those boats as well.
It's nonsense, John.
Of course they would have.
Of course they would have. So are you really seriously suggesting that we can house the whole world?
No,
there's a million people on the move. So why then are you suggesting we have more safe and legal routes?
What I'm saying is that asylum is a recognised international human right. It is a right to claim asylum. It's not illegal to claim asylum. People are going to be claiming asylum. Right, fine, but then Britain will have to play its part. And if there is a demonstrable conflict happening, Britain should set up a safe and legal route.
You're talking over me the whole time, and I want to reply to that, because I don't think you can claim asylum if you come here illegally. I agree with you about asylum, but you must claim asylum from the country that you're in, not arrive on our shores illegally.
There's no right to do that, though, unless the government sets up a specific route.
Yeah, but hold on, we can't have a safe and legal route for everybody who believes they've been persecuted. So we choose, and that's it. If you don't fall in that parameter and you come via any route, then that would be illegal. And just to confirm, small boat arrivals, only 4% of them are sent back. So these are figures from the Migration Observatory, and other figures are roughly the same. So when you said
96%.
So when you said that 50% of
60%,
50-60 are sent back, yes. But out of those coming via small boat, 4% are being sent back.
A massive incentive to make a really dangerous route, and we should stop that. Stop that straight away.
Immediately. All right, what do you think? You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, still to come in my niggle. I say why Harriet Harman is wrong, saying that men should be banned from being the next Labour leader. But next in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? First, your 60-second update with Bethany Elsey.
The headlines from the GB newsroom. Donald Trump says the US and Israel have cancelled a major attack on Iran, saying a peace deal may be close. The new Chancellor, John Healey, is warning supermarkets to stop using the war in the Middle East to profit, saying he won't allow them to take the public for a ride. More than 2,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel in small boats since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. It's after more than 300 made the journey yesterday. And 2 helicopters have collided while tackling the wildfires in Athens. A search and rescue operation for the crew is underway. You're up to date. I'll be back in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hi again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we go into the new working week, the heat is set to build once again, turning humid for all of us and pretty hot on Monday in the south. But there will be some rain as well, courtesy of this area of low pressure just gradually drifting in from the Atlantic. And ahead of that, look at this hot air that we start to import from the near continent. So a very hot day for some on Monday. Out there this evening, though, that area of low pressure is already starting to show its hand, so bits and pieces of rain across Northern Ireland and some northern and western parts of the UK as we go into the early hours of Monday morning. Perhaps even 1 or 2 showers for the Midlands and Eastern England, but not a guarantee by any means. For England and Wales, though, it's going to be an increasingly warm and humid night, quite uncomfortable for sleeping, and temperatures perhaps in urban areas not falling much below 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. It won't be quite as warm or as humid further north, though, particularly in northern Scotland, where actually there'll be some clear skies as we go into the early hours and to start on Monday. So some brightness perhaps for the north of Scotland, but we will run into quite a lot of wet weather across the central and southern parts of Scotland. So a few millimetres of rain by the morning. And that rain will turn into increasingly quite heavy, actually, as we go through Monday morning's rush hour. Most of England and Wales, though, starting on a glorious note, warm and humid, but with plenty of sunshine. And it's set to be a hot day here as we go through Monday, temperatures rapidly rising in that strong August sunshine and reaching the low 30s Celsius quite widely, actually, by the afternoon, possibly 34 or 35 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But notice there is the chance of 1 or 2 showers for Wales and western parts of England into the afternoon, but the bulk of the wet weather will be across parts of Scotland, mainly northern Scotland by the afternoon, where look at these temperatures, only 16 or 17 degrees, so disappointingly cool compared to further south. And a humid and warm evening for England and Wales in particular Monday evening. The chance of some showers, but the southeast, unfortunately, where we really need the rain, looks like staying mostly dry. A greater chance of some showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures slowly returning to average.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to GB News. This is Britain's #1 news channel. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for the Great British Debate. I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? Chancellor John Healey says that he won't let supermarkets take the public for a ride as the Iran war continues to push up prices. And he admits that the government can't completely shield families and businesses from the financial squeeze. He says there's currently no evidence of price gouging, but he insists regulators will clamp down if it happens. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? Well, joining me now is former Conservative MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Liss. This is an interesting one, Anna. He's not saying there's any evidence of it, but he's warning them not to do it just in case they're thinking about it.
I mean, this is absolutely absurd, isn't it? I mean, you've got to question, what does this man know about economics? I mean, how many countries have tried this? France, Hungary, Venezuela, Argentina. They've all abandoned it because it's not price caps that work. If you want to bring down prices, it's competition. And if he doesn't even understand that, he must be the most economically illiterate chancellor that we've ever had. And I suspect he'll be short-lived. But the other thing that's completely hypocritical, I mean, I'm sure Johnson's going to disagree with everything, but he can't disagree with the fact that so many businesses that you speak to say the reason they're having to hike their prices is because of Labour's economic policies, in particular putting up national insurance. And so what he's effectively saying is, oh my God, I might have to solve something because of something stupid that my own government did. I mean, not a great look, is it?
Look, I think that Andy Burnham has come in with the express purpose of helping with the cost of living. He's off to a flying start. He's a great communicator, which is more than can be said, alas, for Keir Starmer. And so I think that Healey is speaking from that basis about how can we help people in any way we can. Obviously, if supermarkets are operating with a very, very tight price margin, then that would not be appropriate for the government to sort of, force them to make a loss. If, on the other hand, as we've seen with some sectors, such as energy a few years ago, it was apparent that companies were making massive profits, as a windfall from various geopolitical events, then it was absolutely right the government should step in. That's why they had a windfall tax under your government, actually, of BP and others, and that's why your own
but that's a
balmy Prime Minister, the only good thing she did, Liz Truss, was set up a fund for people to have rebates on their energy bills.
That is not what we're talking about here. I agree about windfall taxes. In fact, Mrs Thatcher brought in a windfall tax. We are not talking about windfall taxes here. We are talking about a Chancellor who has quite clearly never been in the private sector and never run anything.
Right.
Because anyone who has been in the private sector, and I was in the private sector for over 10 years, knows that when people bring in fixed prices on you, what you do is you put other prices up or you move away from that area of work and you do other areas of work.
Well, I don't think Tesco's going to move away from being a supermarket chain, is it? I mean...
Well, no,
well, they have actually. They're a bank and lots of things.
Yes, fine, but they still are a supermarket.
Why then? Every country that's tried this has seen shortages in products where there is a price cap and has seen prices go up where there isn't a price cap, so the consumer ultimately is no better off.
And left-wing governments have always attempted to mix a kind of socialist principle with the basics of capitalist idea of supply and demand and the freedom to buy what you want to buy and sell what you want to buy.
Johnson? There is nothing capitalist whatsoever about price caps.
I'm saying
it
that
is pure left-wing economic lunacy.
Anna, you might not like it, but we have, in fact, elected a Labour government. It's not a Conservative government, and Labour governments have been more interventionist in the economy than Conservative governments. That's why they're a Labour government. That is what left-wing, that is what on the left means.
That's possibly
you may disagree with that, though.
That's possibly why every Labour government ends up with unemployment higher and running out of money.
I don't think that as a former Conservative MP you can say that the Conservatives left the economy in a good shape. How many recessions have we had under the Conservatives in the last 40 years or 50 years?
Inflation down from 11% to 2%.
It went up to 11% under your government. What a ridiculous example.
You obviously have not been living under a rock, but you do give a good impression of one, Jonathan. What about the energy crisis that we had? The foreign war we had?
Yeah, what's inflation now? What's inflation now? After 2 years of a Labour government? Far lower.
It's still not down to 2%.
Well, it's very...
But that's not the point. That's not the point.
Well, it's not the point. It just doesn't suit your argument.
Every Labour government ends up with unemployment higher and running out of money.
The point is
that's because they pursue left-wing, loony.
You may disagree with left-wing politics, but left-wing politics happen to have a majority in the House of Commons. So tough luck. And what left-wing governments are there to do is to use left-wing ideas to help people, and that's exactly what John Healey's proposing.
So hold on. So are you saying that the government, Jonathan, should impose price caps on supermarkets?
If there is evidence that supermarkets are inflating their profits at the expense of the people who need those essentials, then yes, that might be inappropriate.
They always do that. They always do that. So it's just a line as to just say you were Chancellor, you decide, OK, that's too much inflation, but they're always doing it. So
they're inflating their profits.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. I'm talking about inflation with regard to their profits.
No.
So the government, the government will therefore draw a line as to where they view it's too much. And I'm not confident that they will know where that line would be.
Well, they won't have a clue, Nana. And the crazy thing about this, there isn't any evidence that this is actually happening. Our supermarkets make profit margins, as Jonathan has said, 3%, some say 2%. Tiny. There is no evidence that they're price gouging whatsoever. All there is economic cost pressures. And if the Chancellor doesn't understand that, he's in the wrong job.
No, that's enough. That you had a word, and Anna had a word. I'm not having another word. No more words. Right, well, what do you think at home? gbnews.com/you're saying. I mean, what it is a warning. He hasn't said he's going to do it. So that is a way of sort of threatening them that don't get carried away. Look, I've got no problem with, governments warning people not to get too greedy, but I'm not sure that that works in a competitive market. And also, supermarkets, Anna, no.
Sorry.
It's all right, it's the first time. I can forgive her, but not you, Jonathan. Yeah, not you, Jonathan. All right, well, listen, stay with us there, because if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. The hot, sunny and dry theme continues across most of the Mediterranean through the next few days. There will be a few isolated thunderstorms, particularly for Portugal on Monday, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, barely a cloud in the sky for many coastal regions, and it will feel very hot in that strong August sunshine. Temperatures comfortably into the 30s and approaching 40 degrees Celsius in the hottest spots. The outlook for the rest of the week, well, generally the settled, sunny theme continues with temperatures once again in the high 30s for some.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Charlie, as most of the viewers know, I would be involved in agriculture. This isn't quite agriculture. It's quite close to it, the cousins of. A lot of things that go on in agriculture are on display here. Thousands of people coming to this site, Ragley Hall, just about 45 minutes out of Birmingham.
We are the modern ruralists, and here today we have the craft yard. We've got 9 different crafts, all demonstrating what they're up to. Here we have the wheelwrights, and they're bonding a wheel here. So this is an ancient craft that's been going for about. Barney Murray's a bit of a legend, quite frankly. He's the national champion, master dry stone waller, comes from North Wales, and he's a bit of a Thor lookalike. So he's quite popular.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now at 16 minutes past 8, the annual bike ride from Yorkshire to London is taking place today, aiming to honour the legacy of the Batley and Spen Labour MP Jo Cox, who was murdered by a far-right terrorist in June of 2016.
Well, the bike ride aims to champion a cause she was passionate about, as this year marks the 10th anniversary of her tragic death.
Kim, if we can just start with you, what is your sister's legacy?
Well, there's so much that we've got to be proud of that's been done in Jo's name. It's just been 10 years since she was murdered, and what has kept us going as a family has been the way that so many amazing people, including people like this amazing man, have done things in Jo's name to show what our country is really about. And you've got all these amazing people today from all different backgrounds, all walks of life, celebrating the things that we have in common, not agreeing on everything.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a difficult question. Honestly, I don't think I would at this rate, because I think the government tracks, when we say we're fighting for Britain, what are we actually fighting for? The concept of Britain, I don't think exists anymore. When I look at Britain, when I go outside, it doesn't seem to be very British. And I think the core demographic of the people who would normally fight, these white working class boys who, you know, have been fighting for Britain, who we expect just to sacrifice their life in a fight, you know, they've been demonised for decades and decades by the government, by our education system, by the media. Economically, they've been disadvantaged. So why would we expect them to risk their lives when we've demonised them for so long and took them for granted for so long? And this concept of Britain fighting for the British government, you know, the British government has betrayed us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to GB News. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's all right, you've only missed about 48 minutes of the programme, but we are live until 6 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua, welcome. This is GB News. Let's travel over to America and speak to the host of the Politics People podcast, Paul Duddridge, to find out what's going on stateside. Let's start with Donald Trump. He's cancelled the planned attacks on Iran, saying he'll hold off, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal. What's going on there? Has he made the right decision?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, obviously, Georgia's better than war every time. But this must be, I don't know how many times now we've had the World War II, bigger than World War II's imminent, and then we step back from it to allow diplomacy. I think this time the other nations in the region are actually collaborating with Trump and, you know, asking him to hold back because they feel that they are close to diplomatic breakthrough. This isn't Trump solely acting alone anymore. But remember, he is always prepared to use the big stick that he carries. So I think he's dead serious when he says we are going to unleash World War II, greater than World War II. And then I think he's serious 3 hours later saying, OK, well, we'll step back and allow them to talk. So he would prefer to end this diplomatically. He would prefer not to have had to do this at all. If other presidents before him in the past 47 years had dealt with Iran, he wouldn't be doing this at all. It's not his natural inkling. He wants a deal. So, yes, I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic for the outcome on this. I think that he's got other nations in the region on his side actually negotiating on his behalf as well. So let's all keep our fingers crossed.
Well, Trump's also facing calls to be impeached over the Iran war. His former ally, Alex Jones, branded the conflicts out of control. I mean, it's just absurd, the whole thing, isn't it?
Oh, it's now getting to the stage where you've got Democrats like Fetterman voting for Trump and hardcore MAGA supporters, seemingly, not only calling for Trump to de-escalate the war, but to actually be impeached or removed under the 25th Amendment, which would remove somebody from office. It's extraordinary. This split in high-profile MAGA is now, they're now talking about having a new party and going against him. This is kind of it's disgraceful. It really is disgraceful. We wouldn't have heard of half of these people if it weren't for Trump. But again, it's compared to what's been happening in the UK politics. Well, at least there's a comparison to what's happening in UK politics. The splits and divisions and the disloyalties. It's extraordinary to see it play out. I have to say, Trump is making hay. Trump is making hay with the Spanish story, the Spain invasion.
I bet he is.
He's pointing out to Americans, if you don't want this to happen here, vote for us in the midterm elections. So it's certainly helping his rating. But yeah, look, I think there's a lot of people that owe their living to Trump have bitten the hand that feeds them.
It's interesting, really, because he's also now apparently got his sights set back on Greenland again. He said that it will be under US control before he leaves office.
Yeah, so he was doing an interview on Friday. Somebody said, I bet you'll have Greenland under control. And he just went like, yeah, I'd take that bet if I were you. Then, this is the only reason I'd even bring this up. The way he trolls is extraordinary. He's got this animation going on he's put it up on Truth Social yesterday, and you can see it. It's him, that he's got Greenland in front of him, and it's him just overlooking Greenland, just pointing to bits of it. Like it's like a model. It's like a model railway village. It's hilarious. And so, yeah, you'd think he'd be preoccupied with Iran, but no, he's already looking. That's what I think is promising about Iran. I think he's on Greenland and Cuba because of the geographic regional security that he wants to leave for the United States when he's finished.
Well, at least he's interested in protecting his country, which doesn't look like this lot here are for this country. But he's also talking about a third term, claiming that he'll do it again in 2028. Which is, well, it's not constitutional, really, is it? It could change.
Well, they say that. The Constitution is very flexible. As I keep pointing out to people, you can't have amendments in this concrete the Constitution. The very fact that you can change the Constitution is part of it. You can challenge the Constitution. And yet he's got his team looking for the legal framework. And people like Steve Bannon have pointed out how it can be done quite legally. People think the Supreme Court is like some great iron ruler in this country. Actually, when he appeals to the Supreme Court, ultimately, he can argue that nobody meant no more than 2 terms. They meant no more than 2 consecutive terms. And I think that's ultimately where the argument will go. And that's the thing, because when it was being navigated, that amendment to the Constitution, it was about, we'd had Roosevelt for 4 terms, and it was like, come on, that's too many. But 2, and then a gap, and then 2 possible.
Wow. So he's looking at it, he's got his eye on it. Well, look, if he can stay healthy and well, I don't think he's doing a very bad job at all. I think he's doing quite well. You've got about 10 seconds, Paul. Final words on your thoughts on what's going on in theatre in the UK?
It's Spain. Well, Spain is happening in the UK. It's coming to you soon, and you're getting it in drips and drabs. Spain's getting it overnight. It's kind of extraordinary.
Yeah,
but really yeah, good luck with it.
Well, all right, thank you so much, Paul Dudridge. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much, Paul Dudridge, host of the Politics People podcast. Up next, my niggle on Harriet Harman and her claim that men should be banned from being the next Labour leader.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we go into the new working week, the heat is set to build once again, turning humid for all of us and pretty hot on Monday in the south. But there will be some rain as well, courtesy of this area of low pressure just gradually drifting in from the Atlantic. And ahead of that, look at this hot air that we start to import from the near continent. So a very hot day for some on Monday. Out there this evening, though, that area of low pressure is already starting to show its hand, so bits and pieces of rain across Northern Ireland and some northern and western parts of the UK as we go into the early hours of Monday morning. Perhaps even 1 or 2 showers for the Midlands and Eastern England, but not a guarantee by any means. For England and Wales, though, it's going to be an increasingly warm and humid night, quite uncomfortable for sleeping, and temperatures perhaps in urban areas not falling much below 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. It won't be quite as warm or as humid further north, though, particularly in northern Scotland, where actually there'll be some clear skies as we go into the early hours and to start on Monday. So some brightness perhaps for the north of Scotland, but we will run into quite a lot of wet weather across the central and southern parts of Scotland. So a few millimetres of rain by the morning. And that rain will turn into increasingly quite heavy, actually, as we go through Monday morning's rush hour. Most of England and Wales, though, starting on a glorious note, warm and humid, but with plenty of sunshine. And it's set to be a hot day here as we go through Monday, temperatures rapidly rising in that strong August sunshine and reaching the low 30s Celsius quite widely, actually, by the afternoon, possibly 34 or 35 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But notice there is the chance of 1 or 2 showers for Wales and western parts of England into the afternoon, but the bulk of the wet weather will be across parts of Scotland, mainly northern Scotland by the afternoon, where look at these temperatures, only 16 or 17 degrees, so disappointingly cool compared to further south. And a humid and warm evening for England and Wales in particular Monday evening. The chance of some showers, but the southeast, unfortunately, where we really need the rain, looks like staying mostly dry. A greater chance of some showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures slowly returning to average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice
first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, former Conservative MP Anna Firth, and political commentator Jonathan Liss. I've noticed his beard is matching his outfit. You've noticed that? Coming up in my niggle, I'll be taking Labour grandee Harriet Harman to task over her mission to ban men from being the next Labour leader. It's been reported also that £85 million of job seekers funding has been spent teaching foreigners English. Now the Tories say that taxpayers are being fleeced. So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should money for job seekers be spent on teaching foreigners English? The Chancellor, John Healey, has warned that supermarkets that he won't let them take customers for a ride as the war in Iran continues to hit. So in my poll today, I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? What do you think? GBnews.com, cast your vote. And in the interview, I'll be joined by former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood. He's also a former Army captain, and he'll be discussing his new book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. But before we get started, your latest news with Bethany Elsey.
Nana, thank you. Your headlines from the GB newsroom at 4:01. Donald Trump says he's cancelled a major attack on Iran as a peace deal may be close. On Truth Social, the US president said he and Israel had paused the assault on Tehran, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal, which would include the immediate opening of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. But he also warned Tehran the US remained locked and loaded and ready to go. Iran has not yet responded. More than 2,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel in small boats since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister last month. It's after more than 300 made the journey yesterday, bringing the total so far this year to more than 14,500, which is 40% lower than the same period last year. The number of National Crime Agency officers deployed to tackle the people smuggling gangs has more than doubled since the start of 2025 to almost 800. The Prime Minister claims the government's plans to stop the crossings is working, but that there's a lot more still to do. Spanish authorities say 53,000 of the 60,000 migrants who crossed into the small Spanish territory of Ceuta have now returned to Morocco. 86 people were killed in the sudden mass surge across the border. It's led to division between some European politicians, with EU ministers due to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday to discuss border security. 2 helicopters tackling the severe wildfires in Athens have collided, and a search and rescue operation is underway for the crew. More than 100 homes northwest of the Greek capital have been destroyed, with surrounding villages being evacuated. Meanwhile, new fires on the island of Kefalonia have also forced people to start fleeing their homes. The Chancellor is warning supermarkets to stop profiteering as the US-Iran war continues to hit prices. John Healey says he won't allow them to take the public for a ride. He's vowed to watch closely for any suggestion that customers are being ripped off when shopping for groceries or at the petrol pump. The Chancellor will deliver his first budget in October, promising a plan built on so-called fiscal discipline. At least 5 people have died and 41 are missing after a ferry caught fire off the coast of an Indonesian island. The ferry, which was carrying 271 passengers and crew, caught fire off Indonesia's Madura Island. It's understood more than 220 have been rescued, with search efforts ongoing. 3 people have been killed and 21 injured after a homemade bomb exploded at a restaurant in Moscow. Russian state media says an improvised explosive device was detonated by an unnamed woman who allegedly smuggled it into the Italian restaurant yesterday evening. There are unconfirmed reports that a birthday celebration for a military general was taking place at the time. And Sopranos star Vincent Pastore has died at the age of 80. His co-stars from the HBO series have paid tribute, calling him a beloved friend and collaborator. He enlisted in the US Navy during the Vietnam War before later pursuing a career in acting, also featuring in episodes of Law & Order and Hawaii Five-0. He died at his home in New York. Those are your latest headlines. Let's get back to Nana.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good afternoon, welcome to GB News. It's just coming up to 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I find this, frankly, fascinating. Baroness Harriet Harman has called for a ban on men being allowed to stand as the next Labour leader. She said for every man who stands for leader and gets to be leader, he's pushed a woman into second place behind him. Yes, this from a party who allowed Susie Eddie Izzard, who is a biological male, onto an all-woman candidate shortlist. I guess that is one way around it. This from an all-inclusive, supposedly #BeKind left-wing party that welcomes all comers, particularly if you're in a minority or downtrodden group. A party where a large number of claimed Shabana Mahmood's plans on immigration need to be watered down. And this from a party who has never had a female leader. Harriet was an interim Labour leader, just like Baroness Beckett, but the party has never had a woman full-time leading it. So basically, the supposedly #BeKind brigade who support and promote EDI and any cause where they feel a group are treated in an unequal manner have never had a woman lead the party. It's laughable. Sir Keir Starmer's premiership was plagued with accusations of a boys' club culture. Andy Burnham, on the other hand, has insisted that there shouldn't be any meetings with no women in the room. Perhaps that's why it took many members a long time to say what a woman is. Yet the so-called right-wing Conservative Party, and we have been in a two-party state for some time, have had 4 female leaders. They didn't need a quota. They didn't need to ban men. They simply decided to elect the best person for the job, be they male or female. They've had Margaret Thatcher, an absolute icon. They've had Baroness Theresa May, Liz Truss, and now they are led by Kemi Badenoch. On top of being female, she's also black. Now, not that that matters, of course, but if Harriet Harman wants to focus on identity politics, then it's worth pointing that out. So, what is wrong with the Labour Party that one of their most senior members, Harriet Harman, feels that the only way a woman has any chance of leading the party is if all men are banned from putting themselves forward? This undermines women. In fact, this kind of initiative undermines everyone involved. When the late Charlie Kirk said that he would be concerned if a black person were piloting his plane, he said it because given all the DEI initiatives to recruit minorities, was this person truly the best person for the job, or were they simply there because they were black? Harriet, I know you mean well, but these sort of banning men initiatives simply undermine women with genuine talent. Just sort out the misogyny and sexism that is within your own party by your own admission. It should be the best person for the job, full stop. Well, there you have it. That's what I think. What do you think? You're with me. I'm Nana Akua on GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up this hour in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should men be banned from being the next Labour leader? The Tories have had Margaret Thatcher, Theresa May, Liz Truss and now Kemi Badenoch, but Labour has never had a female leader. So in my Great British Debate, and the first one I'm asking, should men be banned from being the next Labour leader? Then in the next Great British Debate of this hour, I'm asking, should money for job seekers be spent on teaching foreigners English? Now, it's been reported that £85 million of job seekers funding has been spent on English language lessons. So the Tories say taxpayers are being fleeced. So in the next Great British Debate, I'm asking, should money for job seekers be spent on teaching foreigners English? And later this hour, we'll get an update on the big story that I brought you this week, with more than 24,000 parents having allegedly been overcharged by the child maintenance service CMS. We'll be speaking again to the gentleman who was in last week. We'll be discussing what has happened there. That'll be Noel Wilcox who'll be joining us live. That's all on the way. Please send your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say, or scan that QR code. Well, I'm now joined by Labour historian Dr. David Swift. David, am I talking absolute nonsense? Because in my view, it should actually be the best person for the job, in particular when it's a position with such great power. I wouldn't pick someone because they're black, because they're female, because they're disabled, because they're a man, because of any of those things. I would pick them simply because of their ability to perform the task required.
Yeah, the thing is, though, Nana, what means someone's the best person for the job, right? That depends on your point of view. I think with all of those female Tory leaders, going back to Margaret Thatcher, the reason they were picked, ultimately, the reason they succeeded and became the leader was because sufficient numbers of Tory MPs, or later members, when the members had the vote, felt that that person was the best to advance their own kind of, politics at that time, right? So for Thatcher, it was, she wasn't Ted Heath. She was going to break with the post-war consensus and properly take on the unions. And that was enough for sufficient numbers of Tory MPs to think, even though we don't want a woman leader and we don't think it's appropriate, well, there's no man here who's going to do that, so we may as well try Margaret. Even for Theresa May, right?
But David, there was no policy specifically to take up because she was a woman. That was not part of the equation. The equation was, well, she seems to be the best person for the job, so let's do it. And I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm concerned.
I definitely don't agree with. Harman's scheme. I definitely don't think men should be banned. Right, that would seem illegitimate. It would obviously, I think, be roundly criticised. Having said that, I do think something like all women shortlist, right, which were obviously held against at the time, 25 plus years ago, when they were introduced, that has produced a parliament now that's nearly half women, because around half the Labour MPs are women. You might say there are some women who are only there because of that, right? That there's some talentless women who become MPs are probably quite right, but still not as many talentless male MPs, actually. But even in the Conservative Party, right, the Conservatives never had anything as kind of stringent or positive discrimination like all women shortlist or anything like that. But there definitely was a concerted campaign over many years to get more women candidates, to get more black and ethnic minority candidates. And that's why someone like Rishi Sunak, and then Kemi Badenoch have become Tory leader, right? Not because there was any kind of, ethnic minority shortlist or all women shortlist.
Exactly.
At least there was a campaign to improve diversity.
No, but you mentioned all women shortlists, which Izzard managed to get on one because he decided that day he was going to be a woman. See what I mean? Even when they're doing it, he's a man. I don't know what the problem is there. It's quite clear that he is a man. Even if he wants to be a woman one day, he can say he is and he can believe he is if he wants. I don't believe he is. I know he's not. So he's only either convincing himself, but he isn't. So even when
maybe an ambitious female Labour MP should declare she's a trans man then, right? And then let's see if she does actually become the first.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, it makes a nonsense of it.
Trans people aside, then, I mean, again, I think it'd be very hard to imagine a trans person, man or woman, become a Labour leader, wouldn't it? If there's never been any female leaders yet. All that aside, though, I think the problem is that there's this archetype or even stereotype of female right-wing leaders, which has been well established since Margaret Thatcher, and to which everyone else seems to appeal, right? So Theresa May obviously clearly modelled herself a bit on Thatcher. Liz Truss is more of the kind of random eccentric, but even so would like to see herself as Thatcher. Even Japanese, the Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takachi, again, very much kind of modelling herself in the Iron Ladies mould. So I think a problem is that there's a bit of a double standard, actually, when it comes to female left-wing leaders, right? We're all very familiar with the kind of school mom style imposing female leader, which actually Kenny Badenoch's kind of playing up to quite well, I think. With a left-wing woman, though, it's a bit tougher, right? Are people, including women, including Labour supporters, ready to vote for or put trust in a kind of female left-wing figure in the same way that clearly right people had to do so? Who would it be? Thinking of someone like Angela Rayner, someone like Louise Hay.
She's terrible.
What?
She's terrible. I like Angela, but I like her energy and her spark as an individual. But I'm afraid the whole housing debacle, where she managed to make a mistake, supposedly with her stamp duty, and then kind of gets off it in a way. Presumably she had to pay it back, but still, that wouldn't be the way if it was any one of us. And also she was the housing minister at the time, and she's now got the brief back. It just. I don't think actually looking at what they've got there anyway in terms of female candidates that there is anyone who I think would be good enough anyway. But I just don't get why.
What I'm saying though is, Nana, that I think there's a kind of almost like a psychological thing though, isn't it? Because since there hasn't been a female Labour leader, there hasn't been a female Labour Prime Minister, we're not even quite sure what that would take or what that would be or what that would look like, if you know what I mean. What do we actually want from a female Labour leader, right? Because so much of the criticism about someone like Rayner or Louise Hay, and obviously you could talk about their policies and their views, you could talk about, I suppose, they both got a bit of a history of, allegedly not filing insurance claims correctly or allegedly getting stamp duty wrong. But still, I think that there's a lack of a kind of archetype or a kind of image of a female left-wing leader. And so we're always going to say, oh no, she's not appropriate or she's not appropriate. So I think, whilst I disagree with Harman's plan, I think there does need to be something done in the next Labour leadership election, whenever it may be.
But that's within them. The problem that they're having is a problem from within, because the other parties, because we've mainly been a two-party system here. The others, Liberal Democrats, I don't know what's going on with them. I don't even think they know. But, I mean, if you look at it, the so-called right-wing party, who are supposed to be the ones who would potentially have the far right, so you've got a black leader there, interesting, who are supposed to, who those kind of people would more likely be drawn to if that were a thing. And, all the stereotypes that you would expect from a sort of supposed right wing, I guess, in many, have been broken. So...
I think maybe that makes it easier.
Yet the left wing, pride themselves on, having diversity, inclusion. They come up with critical race theory and talk about the decolonising the curriculum and all the stuff that you'd expect, which equals the playing field. But yet within themselves, they're not even able to do it.
The only thing I'd say about that is we are talking about political party leadership elections here, right? We're not talking about how many MPs are elected or anything like that. It's just much more. Each one of them is much more of a one-off occasion, isn't it? Every few years, right? So it definitely is embarrassing for Labour, and it's a bit weird for Labour, especially considering around half their MPs are women, and that's been the case for about 20 years, more or less.
Exactly.
You would think a woman would be there, but the thing is, though, if you look at the last Labour leadership election, where you had Keir Starmer against Rebecca Long-Bailey and then Lisa Nandy. Again, actually, I quite liked Lisa Nandy at that time, and I thought she could have done a good job. Obviously, Starmer didn't do the best possible job. But again, if you look at what Nandy's done to our culture,
they were all bad. They were all terrible. I think the real problem is that there's just not the calibre anymore. I mean, the people that Keir Starmer were against, I would say that he was the best candidate against those people. And that's not because he's a man or that they're women, just because they weren't very good. And they proved it whilst, being MPs. I don't particularly think that they were very good. That's all. Had they been great, I'd have said, oh, well, that person should have gone in. But it wouldn't have been, because they are a woman. And also,
would you have said any female Labour MPs or ministers?
Well, it's not that they're female. I'd have to think if they're... But it wouldn't be because they're female or male. It would just be whether there is anybody good enough. And right now, for the Labour Party, I believe Andy Burnham is probably their best bet. That's what I think. Not because he's a man, but because he's Andy Burnham and the way he goes about things and his charisma, his energy, his ideas. I don't disagree with many of his ideas, but I don't see him being able to find funding for those ideas. He's coming up with lovely sweeteners, which most people would like, but where's the money coming from? But I think for the Labour Party, he's the best person for the job. That's not to do with whether he's male or female.
100%, exactly. But that's, again, as you say, not because he's a man, right? So if a woman challenged Burnham, right? If a woman challenged Burnham and once again failed to become Labour leader, we couldn't really say, oh, look at the Labour Party or the so-called woke party won't get a female leader, right? It would have been just because Burnham was the best man for the job in the way that Starmer appeared at the time. But one thing I will say about Burnham, though, obviously a big part of his image is he's this northern bloke, you know, the king of the north, etc. Likes his footy and all the rest of it. And that's, by the way, the kind of stereotype that would have made it quite hard to become Labour leader and Prime Minister not that long ago, right? When there have been more working-class Labour leaders a long time, like we're talking about Ramsay MacDonald, they had to play that down. And someone like other people, anyway. Well, my point here is Bell can get away with that, right? He can be this kind of northern bloke, and that's acceptable, and people think it's appropriate, and it looks good if he's the Labour leader and Prime Minister. I think for a working-class northern woman, it would be much harder for whatever reason. And that's not to do with politics with the big party, it's to do with the broader culture.
I don't think so. If they're good, they're good. You know, like you may think that, but I just don't care where they're from. I actually get sick and tired of the sort of sob stories. I am a northern working class woman, by the way, just so you know. You know, I was born in Newcastle. I'm a Geordie. Do you know what I mean? My parents had nothing. They lived in a high rise with the heating coming from the floor. You know, so whatever stereotype people are putting in place, I don't know. I think you're perpetuating there.
It's probably easier for someone like yourself to become a GB News presenter, which has happened, right? Than it might be leader of the Labour Party or even Conservative Party. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Maybe
I think you're wrong. I could have done anything I set my mind to.
There are certain kind of stereotypes in certain places where someone doesn't seem appropriate for the job. And I think we need to somehow do something.
I don't agree with that, David. I could have been anything I set my mind to. I set my mind to having my own TV show, and I got it. It could have been on any channel, but luckily it was GB News. I'm very thankful. David Swift, thank you very much. That's Dr. David Swift, even. Thank you. He's a Labour historian. Thank you very much. All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk, because there's loads more still to come here on GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. All right, well, stay with me. Still to come, we'll be discussing Andy Burnham and, you know, and in regard to being a Labour leader, and also Harriet Harman. Is she right? But pressure is also mounting now on the Prime Minister to address the small boats crisis. And amid the influx of migrants into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta, Andy Burnham spoke to reporters a little earlier.
The number of crossings is down by 50% this year compared with the same period in 2025. And the month we've just had, July, has been the lowest number for 6 years of people crossing. So clearly progress is being made, but we're not complacent, and it's why I am here. It's why I've come down on Sunday to see the team, to listen to what they think needs to be done, what further can be done. So we're just going to be relentless. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield, but we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs. So on every level we've got to come at this, but crucially increasing the enforcement activity. So there's been a doubling of enforcement officers through the National Crime Agency on the UK side of the channel, and French specialist officers are now similarly doubled in number, working on the beaches over there. So a big ramping up of activity this summer. It's having results, but we are not complacent. Much more needs to be done.
You mentioned there about safe and legal routes. Do you want to change the tone of this debate?
We have to deal with the issue rather than play politics with the issue. Just deal with it head on, grip it, and then make the changes that will bring that reassurance to the public. The public don't like the idea that the border looks like it's not controlled. We need to bring back that control, but also we need to offer support for people who genuinely need it. It's about changing the whole approach, and slowly but surely we are putting in place those building blocks of a very different approach to this issue. It's working, but there's more to be done.
What we've seen in Ceuta in recent days, the EU will hold emergency talks next week. Of course, we're not in the EU, but would you like a seat at that table? And have you spoken to Pedro Sanchez since you first did?
I've exchanged messages with the Spanish Prime Minister, and the news from Spain is that around 98% of the people who came into Spanish territory last week have now been returned to Morocco, and there's an agreement between Spain and Morocco to that effect. So that substantially deals with the immediate issue, but of course there's a broader issue about the Schengen area and our relationship with it, and of course I would want to be in regular dialogue with the EU on those issues.
Would you like to be at those talks on Tuesday?
It's a matter for the EU as to whether or not, but our team certainly will be feeding in to those discussions.
One question on the cost of living. Petrol prices are at a record high since the war broke out in Iran. Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, when they were in government, they spoke about, warning retailers not to make excess profits out of this crisis. Do you want to go further? Can you introduce any practical policies that will actually bring down the price for people?
Well, I will keep a close eye on any profiteering through this crisis, and I would, of course, bring in measures to achieve that and not allow there to be undue profits being made out of this situation. More broadly, we need to see a de-escalation, and that's been the UK position, and we've worked hard with all sides to get an agreement, and we hope that an agreement can be reached. So that's the biggest thing that will protect people from cost of living pressures as we go into the autumn and into the winter. We are working very, very hard on every single level to bring that about.
Finally, Gianni Infantino, because I know you've had an opinion on this story, should he be replaced?
I do not believe that he is the right man to lead football forward on the world stage. The plan that was put forward was offensive to many football people around the world, and it can't be the case that we just move on and forget that. It wasn't acceptable, and as I say, I don't believe he's the right man to lead FIFA forward.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I thought I'd be forgiven.
I'd have grilled him a little bit more on that migration. I think he got a little bit of an easy ride there, but in a few minutes we'll get reaction to what Andy Burnham had to say from my panel. The former Tory MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Liss will be joining me. This is GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
I've already loads of things. Oh, hello. Welcome back to GB News. I'm so busy talking to myself. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now listen, let's get a reaction to the interview with Andy Burnham that we brought to you just a few minutes ago. Joining me now is former Conservative MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Liss. I hope you were listening to what Andy Burnham said. So Anna Firth, I'll start with you.
Well, I was listening, but he didn't say anything,
No, he didn't say much, did he?
I mean, it's just words and words and words with Andy Burnham. And even when he's questioned, so what are you actually going to do? Well, we've got to take back control, and we've got to do better. He doesn't actually ever tell you how he's going to do anything. So I've got no faith in him. I've branded him the candy floss Prime Minister. Everything's pink and big and fluffy, but you take a bite and there's nothing there.
You take a bite. Don't you keep it clean, Jonathan. I can see where his mind's heading. Into the gutter, into the sewer. Here we go.
Well, candy floss, I'll tell you what else candy floss is, and that is extremely popular. And what you have found with Andy Burnham is that he has the highest approval ratings of any political leader in this country, which is no mean feat given how bad Starmer's approval ratings were. And Labour is now ahead in some opinion polls, ending like a 1.5-year unbroken streak of poll leads for reform. So whatever Burnham's doing, he's doing well. Now that doesn't. That's not to say that he's going to have every answer to every question. That's not to say that he doesn't need to flesh out policies. I agree with you. But so far, I think that he's doing a good job. He's only been in the job for a week.
Just on that point, Jonathan, don't you think if you put a red rosette on a donkey, it would be more popular than Keir Starmer?
No, I don't. No, I really don't.
I think it would.
It's comparison.
No.
It's comparisons. He was the most unpopular Prime Minister of our modern times.
Look, I think if you had some people in the Labour Party who are now Prime Minister, they would be in negative poll ratings. Andy Burnham, say what you like about his policies, and we'll get on to that, but he's a very, very good communicator. He's very likeable. He answers questions head on. He doesn't sound robotic like Starmer or May before him.
I agree with that. He's the TikTok Prime Minister. But there's going to come a point, if he doesn't start to put some flesh on these bones, if he doesn't actually start to come up and tell us how he's going to do anything, then people are going to conclude that he doesn't know, that he hasn't got a clue. And that's what I'm starting to think. He doesn't actually really know what he's going to do. And that was Keir Starmer's problem.
No, I'm not sure that's...
He'll end up in exactly the same place.
I'm sure that he will become less popular as time goes on, because that's what happens to all prime ministers and governments in the main. But I think that it's fair to say that he is focused on the cost of living, and that migration has not traditionally been an area where he's been strongest, like with Labour generally. Obviously, my position on immigration is going to be very, very different from the government's.
What is your position on immigration?
No, we talked about it literally every week for 2 years. But I'm pro-migration. I'm pro-migration, and I think that migration is a good thing.
Illegal migration?
Well, it's only
the dinghies.
It's only illegal.
People on the dinghies. Let's be specific.
No, the dinghies that, as I've said to you so many times, no one wants those boats to exist. Least of all the people who go on them, because they spend thousands of pounds getting on those unworthy rides.
There's a bonanza on it. It's a special offer.
Right. Well, no one wants to spend £500 across in the Channel on a seaworthy vessel. So we have to have a better system than that. The government's decided to tackle that with smashing the gangs. I think you should do it by...
How many gangs have they actually smashed, Jonathan? How many gangs? Because I would suggest they haven't smashed any gangs.
Well, Anna, the numbers are down. The numbers are down.
It's the weather.
No.
It's not the weather. We've had heat wave after heat wave this summer.
Hang on, sorry.
Numbers are down.
Hang on, sorry. We may have had some heat waves, but it's been very choppy conditions in the Channel. I know this because I've been speaking to people about it, so I know about that. The weather's been terrible, and then it got good on I think it's the second day that Andy Burnham was inducted as leader, as Prime Minister, and then for those days there have been boats every day.
The numbers are only down for this year. If you actually look, since Labour came into office, 77,000 have come across the Channel in small boats, which is a record.
All right, well, Burnham's only been in office for a week, so let's see what he does about it. But one thing he has done is keep on Shabana Mahmood as Home Secretary. I wouldn't have done that personally. I for she's far too right-wing for me. But again, I'm not a spokesman for the Labour Party and I'm not in government.
But Jonathan, how can you sit there and be effectively by not wanting to take a tough line, you are basically supporting the small boats?
I really take exception to that, Anna.
Okay.
That's not what I'm doing at all.
Second
I've
point,
always said that I'm opposed to small boats.
But you're not actually prepared
Yes, I am.
to do anything. You're not prepared to put your money where your mouth
Yes,
is.
I am.
I'm sorry, but that is typical of the left wing.
I literally am. If you let me...
They talk a good game.
Well, I can tell you exactly what I would do.
It's a word salad.
I'll tell you exactly what I would do.
What would you do?
Well, I would say I would have safe and legal routes.
What, for everyone?
I would have safe and legal routes for people to come here so they could claim asylum, which is a recognised human right. If people are not asylum seekers, obviously they would have to be dealt with in the normal way. I think that economic migration, by the way, I think is a good thing as well. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about asylum seekers. I would also allow people to claim asylum without being on British shores. That's the best thing that we could do by having asylum centres in France, for example. Nana, you've agreed with me on this before, where people can actually claim asylum in France, and if they are granted asylum, then they could come across to Britain in the normal way.
Now you're saying something sensible, because what Hungary does is it insists that people do apply for asylum before they get to the country, and on that I totally agree.
Absolutely, because we force people to be here, and the only way they can get here is by coming on a dinghy.
And I don't think that should be impossible to achieve.
Right.
Everybody should be able to apply for asylum wherever they are in the world, but if they are turned down, that's it.
Fine.
And what we could also do is make sure they give their ID. So nowadays, with all the electronics we've got, they could give a photo ID, and then when people turn up on the shores, we would actually know who is that person, where have they come from, and where should we send them back to. So there you go, Anna, and we've solved it,
Well,
Anna.
look, I mean, obviously, the point about returning is that there are some countries that are not safe for people to be returned to, and that is always going to be the problem.
That's why you had to send them to Rwanda.
Well, thank goodness the government got rid of that, because that was an inhumane.
But you have to have a third country, Jonathan.
Listen, we can't take everybody just because they're country.
I never said we could take
everyone.
everyone.
But you are. You're saying safe and legal routes pretty much for everyone.
No.
And then
the whole world doesn't want to come here now.
Well, actually, if the whole world does, we've got a problem with under your theory.
They don't.
Well, if 60,000 people came the way they did with Ceuta, we're in trouble.
But they're not.
Well, we've had 1,000 at once.
And the United Kingdom is bigger than Ceuta.
So the price has gone down. It's 500 quid. We've had 1,000 in one whatever crossing.
One day.
So what if, Jonathan, 10,000 decide to come? Are you still talking about this? Would you not send 10,000 people right back? Because that's what I would do.
No, there is a basic principle that people...
500 quid.
There is a basic principle that people have the right to claim asylum. They don't have the right to get asylum, but they have the right to claim it.
So
and
in the meantime, when they've claimed asylum, you will then wait a bit, and you've got to house them, you've got to clean for them, you've got to have they've got to have the normal accommodation. They should be sent straight back.
That is why they should be claiming asylum in France. They don't need to go on those boats, and then we can smash the gangs that way. Smash the models of the gangs that way.
Send them straight back to France. I'm sorry, but that's what I would do. I'd do exactly what the Spanish did there. And I tell you what, that would be the end of the smugglers model. But what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Still to come, my interview with the former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood. He'll be discussing his new book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. But next in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should money for job seekers be spent on teaching foreigners English? But first, your headlines with Bethany Else.
The headlines from the GB newsroom. Donald Trump says the US and Israel have cancelled a major attack on Iran, saying a peace deal could be close. The new Chancellor, John Healey, is warning supermarkets to stop using the war in the Middle East to profit, saying he won't allow them to take the public for a ride. More than 2,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel in small boats since Andy Burnham became Prime Minister. It's after more than 300 made the journey yesterday. And 2 helicopters have collided while tackling the wildfires in Athens. A search and rescue operation for the crew is underway. You're up to date for now. I'll be back at 5 o'clock.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hi again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we go into the new working week, the heat is set to build once again, turning humid for all of us and pretty hot on Monday in the south. But there will be some rain as well. Courtesy of this area of low pressure just gradually drifting in from the Atlantic. And ahead of that, look at this hot air that we start to import from the near continent. So a very hot day for some on Monday. Out there this evening, though, that area of low pressure is already starting to show its hand, so bits and pieces of rain across Northern Ireland and some northern and western parts of the UK as we go into the early hours of Monday morning. Perhaps even one or two showers for the Midlands and Eastern England, but not a guarantee by any means. For England and Wales, though, it's going to be an increasingly warm and humid night, quite uncomfortable for sleeping, and temperatures perhaps in urban areas not falling much below 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. It won't be quite as warm or as humid further north, though, particularly in northern Scotland, where actually there'll be some clear skies as we go into the early hours and to start on Monday. So some brightness perhaps for the north of Scotland, but we will run into quite a lot of wet weather across the central and southern parts of Scotland. So a few millimetres of rain by the morning. And that rain will turn into increasingly quite heavy, actually, as we go through Monday morning's rush hour. Most of England and Wales, though, starting on a glorious note, warm and humid, but with plenty of sunshine. And it's set to be a hot day here as we go through Monday, temperatures rapidly rising in that strong August sunshine and reaching the low 30s Celsius quite widely, actually, by the afternoon, possibly 34 or 35 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But notice there is the chance of one or two showers for Wales and western parts of England into the afternoon, but the bulk of the wet weather will be across parts of Scotland, mainly northern Scotland by the afternoon, where look at these temperatures, only 16 or 17 degrees, so disappointingly cool compared to further south. And a humid and warm evening for England and Wales in particular Monday evening. The chance of some showers, but the southeast, unfortunately, where we really need the rain, looks like staying mostly dry. A greater chance of some showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures slowly returning to average.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
41 minutes after 4 o'clock, and it's time for the Great British Debate. I'm asking, should money be spent, job seekers be spent on teaching foreigners English? More than 85 million from a government fund designed to help people into work has been spent on English language lessons for foreign speakers. The Adult Skills Fund was set up to help unemployed and low-paid adults gain qualifications and improve their job prospects. So why on earth are they spending on teaching foreigners English? Let's speak to my panel, former Conservative MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Jonathan, I'll come to you.
Look, if you can have people in this country legally that are able to work and their English isn't up to scratch, then it's obviously useful to teach people English in the same way that we would teach refugees English, so they can integrate into society, get them into the workforce.
What about the job seekers?
And also, clearly people who are seeking jobs and their English isn't good enough to work in certain fields.
No, actual job seekers from this country.
Look, I think that I don't necessarily agree with taking money from that pot to pay for this. There should be additional money to pay for that, because it's important.
Anna Firth.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. This £350 million should be helping job seekers in this country. I do not want Southend workers, people who want to work, not having access to that resource. And secondly, people should have to speak English before they arrive.
Exactly.
Yeah, in fact, actually, this is something that the Tories actually did. They made it a condition. You have A-level English to get a visa to come here. That's the answer.
But they can fake that anyway, especially with the online stuff.
But at least it's a principle, isn't it? At least it's laying down the principle that you should speak English before you come here?
I think that it's fair that you should be able to go to another country and then learn the language. I mean, my goodness, the number of British people that live in Berlin and sort of, Amsterdam or Copenhagen without speaking their languages and work there quite easily. I think that it's fair that people should be able to learn.
Not to the taxpayer, isn't it? I don't want to pay for people who can't speak English to teach them English rather than paying to get the British public or whoever's in the job seekers to get a job. I'd rather they got on with it. Otherwise, it's just holding everybody back. What do you think? gbnews.com/your say. But this show's nothing without you. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Joining me now, Brian Dugan in Solihull. Brian Dugan, what do you make of this?
Well, as I understand it, Nana, the Adult Skills Fund is meant to be for job seekers who are looking for added qualifications, such as, for example, maths, GCSE, or other similar qualifications, to try to get those to kind of, get more earning power, get more wages. Obviously, the new Prime Minister has said cost of living is the number one priority. Do you think that
money, Brian, because we've only got like about 30 seconds, do you think that money should have been taken from that pot specifically?
I agree with what Jonathan said. There should be a separate pot. I don't think that, if people are justified in entering the country, if they are legally able to enter the country, I don't think it's a lot, Nana, to say, well, if their English is not great, maybe we can go and help them there, but it should be from a separate fund. I think Jonathan's got that right. As opposed to Anna, who's been talking about Andy Burnham, talking about words. Well, words are useful, Anna, if you want to say something. And you came out with a lot of cliches about Andy Burnham, talking about candy floss and all the rest, well-rehearsed lines. And, let's get real about things. But as ever, the Tories, they're not real about anything, are they?
Well, to be honest, I certainly don't support what the Tory party did, so I don't know why you think I'd support that, but I don't just want to hear words, I want to see action, and it took Andy Burnham 12 days to say anything about illegal migration, and I would have liked to have heard those words a lot sooner. Brian Dugan, always a pleasure. He's there in Solihull. Lovely to see you. Thank you. All right, well, the Department for Work and Pension spokesperson said it's only right that people who are legally in this country can integrate into society, progress in work and contribute to the economy. We recognise the local authorities have a clear understanding of the skills needs of local people and employers, which is why we are expanding our devolution plans to bring funding decisions to those who know their communities best. Wonderful. Right, let's check this out. If you fancy some holiday sun in Europe, here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there. The hot, sunny and dry theme continues across most of the Mediterranean through the next few days. There will be a few isolated thunderstorms, particularly for Portugal on Monday, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, barely a cloud in the sky for many coastal regions, and it will feel very hot in that strong August sunshine. Temperatures comfortably into the 30s and approaching 40 degrees Celsius in the hottest spots. The outlook for the rest of the week, well, generally the settled sunny theme continues with temperatures once again in the high 30s for some.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Should James Bond stay white and male?
Yes, I think that's probably the best course of action. If you think about it, Amazon have taken over Bond about a year ago, and they're a big company, aren't they? And this is a risk, isn't it? They don't want to be seen to cast their first James Bond in anything other than the most popular Bond to everybody. So if you're a casting director, like Debbie McWilliams has said, the previous one, I suppose it'd be who would be the most popular? What's the safest thing to do? So I think, in other iterations, there's nothing to say it couldn't be anything other than white, but this is the first one back, so I think it will be the safe thing to do. And it has to be a man. That's non-negotiable. I think audiences would instantly be complaining, and they want as little controversy going into this new film as they can.
The People's Channel. Martin Daubney. Weekdays from 3 p.m.
With the football, a row has erupted. A racism row again, this time at a Kent secondary school after pupils' children were allegedly told to scrub painted England flags from their arms because, you've guessed it, they were deemed as racist. Is this the woke flag monitors simply spoiling everybody's fun?
Now, look, if we are going to police flags, that's clearly a problem. I think there are lots of people who feel negatively towards the England flag because of what it's represented in the past, and that's a real shame. But it's nice to see that new generations, I'm the son of immigrants, and I don't feel that. I haven't inherited that, and that's really positive.
Look,
so we should be able to, especially during a football match, fly that flag with pride
So
and enjoy
I know
it.
that part of the world a little bit. I travelled to Broadstairs, Thanet, Sandwich. You see the Union flag, and particularly the England flag, everywhere.
Yes.
Even under normal circumstances, you see the England flag being proudly flown. So this is completely insane.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
There was a Ryanair flight from Thessaloniki in Greece, and a part of the plane hit the window and pulled it out. And so this man, a 61-year-old Serbian man, was sucked out of the window. And his wife, she says that she was desperately holding onto his legs to keep him inside the plane for 5 minutes. Wow. It was horrendous. Apparently the aircraft did eventually land normally and passengers were safe and a replacement airline was sent. He was taken to hospital with friction burns. It was a part of the propeller had come loose from the engine and it had hit the window, and that's what had taken the window out. So it wasn't as though it was thought to be loose in the first place. But can you imagine?
No.
I mean,
I don't want to.
Unbelievable.
I'm
not a good flyer, I have to admit. This terrifies me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, last week, I brought you news that more than 24,000 parents have allegedly been overcharged child maintenance payments worth $4.3 million. Now, some have spent years fighting to recover the money. They say that they should never have had to pay, and some have even been driven to take their own lives. Last week, we heard from John Hammond, who was chased and chased and chased. Noel Wilcox joins me in the studio to give us an update as to what's happened since then.
Well, Nana, obviously, since the story broke last week, I've been inundated with paying parents that have been contacting me, in very, very distressing circumstances. Just following on from last week, obviously with John Hammond, he had £20,000 removed from his bank account, well after that, when his case was actually closed. And I think the real ironic thing about his case is that the ex-wife didn't know anything, and also that his children were grown up. I mean, what did you sort of take from that?
Well, I mean, I know the inefficiencies of the CMS. I've seen it myself, but it's usually the other way around, where they don't get enough from the other person, in my view. But that's my experience.
Well, that's a real interesting point, because I actually do see this from both sides. Yeah, we've got the paying parents who have, who are going through absolute hell, but also the receiving parents. Now, the thing is, from these National Audit Office reports, and obviously the National Audit Office is the regulatory body that audits the child maintenance service, there's millions that's been collected and not passed on to the receiving parents. There's millions.
So where would that money go?
Do you know what? I have absolutely no idea at all. And this is the reason why the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, is calling for a public inquiry into this.
Wow.
Previously to that, Sir Alan Campbell, a couple of years ago, he also called for a public inquiry into this. And what I really don't want, and the pressure I think that we need to put on the government, is what we've witnessed recently with the post office scandal, the grooming gangs, etc., is that we're going to end up yet again with another cover-up. And we just can't afford for this to happen, because right here, right now, lives are being absolutely destroyed. If I go to two cases where they've ended in tragic circumstances, that is the case of Gavin Briggs and Johnny O'Neill. When I have read the witness statements, the testimonies of what actually happened to these paying parents, it's absolutely tragic. The trail of destruction that is being left behind by what this agency is doing, who appears to be completely unaccountable. If we actually look at the data, and the 25,000 cases were where the 12,500 of those cases were where the cases had been closed.
Wow.
So that means that that paying parent was not liable for any more money to pay.
But they still pursued them as they did with...
No, they took the money from their bank accounts.
Just took it straight away? Well,
just took the money straight from their bank accounts.
That's just frightening, isn't it?
It is frightening that government has that amount of power, that they can come in with no court order and take any amount of money out of your bank account. And for me, Nana, that is a scandal.
So very briefly, where can people go to kind of support the cause? We've got about 10 seconds.
Well, I mean, they can contact me through my usual socials, which is Noel Wilcox. I'm on X, Facebook. These people can contact me anywhere. There is a Facebook site, which is CMS Support for Non-Resident Parents, and I really do encourage people to go there for any help.
All right, Noel Wilcox, thank you very much for coming
Thank you
back.
so much, Nana.
And we will continue to follow this as we go.
Thank you.
Well, the DWP spokesperson told GB News the CMS deals with 810,000 maintenance arrangements, and external audits show high accountability rates in almost all cases. Payment arrangements are generally based on the paying parent's income. Where parents dispute a decision, it can be appealed, and an independent tribunal would decide if it should be changed. If you've been affected by this story, you can contact Samaritans. You can call free 116123 or email them at joe.samaritans.org or visit samaritans.org to find your nearest branch. Well, stay with me. Loads more still to come, including my interview with Tobias Elwood. Don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we go into the new working week, the heat is set to build once again, turning humid for all of us and pretty hot on Monday in the south. But there will be some rain as well. Courtesy of this area of low pressure just gradually drifting in from the Atlantic. And ahead of that, look at this hot air that we start to import from the near continent. So a very hot day for some on Monday. Out there this evening, though, that area of low pressure is already starting to show its hand. So bits and pieces of rain across Northern Ireland and some northern and western parts of the UK as we go into the early hours of Monday morning. Perhaps even one or two showers for the Midlands and Eastern England, but not a guarantee by any means. For England and Wales, though, it's going to be an increasingly warm and humid night, quite uncomfortable for sleeping, and temperatures perhaps in urban areas not falling much below 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. It won't be quite as warm or as humid further north, though, particularly in northern Scotland, where actually there'll be some clear skies as we go into the early hours and to start on Monday. So some brightness perhaps for the north of Scotland, but we will run into quite a lot of wet weather across the central and southern parts of Scotland. So a few millimetres of rain by the morning. And that rain will turn into increasingly quite heavy, actually, as we go through Monday morning's rush hour. Most of England and Wales, though, starting on a glorious note, warm and humid, but with plenty of sunshine. And it's set to be a hot day here as we go through Monday, temperatures rapidly rising in that strong August sunshine and reaching the low 30s Celsius quite widely, actually, by the afternoon, possibly 34 or 35 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But notice there is the chance of one or two showers for Wales and western parts of England into the afternoon, but the bulk of the wet weather will be across parts of Scotland, mainly northern Scotland by the afternoon, where look at these temperatures, only 16 or 17 degrees, so disappointingly cool compared to further south. And a humid and warm evening for England and Wales in particular Monday evening. The chance of some showers, but the southeast, unfortunately, where we really need the rain, looks like staying mostly dry. A greater chance of some showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures slowly returning to average.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to Orlisanti by Domes Resorts, where we're celebrating with an incredible £60,000 to be won. Plus, we'll give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000. Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries Entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. Joining me for the next hour, former Conservative MP Anna Firth, and political commentator Jonathan Liss. So in my niggle today, I took Labour grandee Harriet Harman to task over her mission to ban men from being the next Labour leader. You can catch up with that now on all our digital channels. Also,
to be relentless. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield, but we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs.
I just noticed that his hair wasn't moving at all. He's got a lot of hairspray there. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has pledged to tackle the small boat crossing as pressure piles on European leaders to bolster border controls. The Chancellor, John Healey, has warned supermarkets that he won't let them take customers for a ride as the war in Iran continues to hit prices. So in my poll today, I'm asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? Go to gbnews.com, cast your vote. And in my interview, I'll be joined by former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood. He's also a former army captain and will be discussing his new book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. And the government's Minister for Artificial Intelligence says that we are right to worry about AI. Oh, that's heartening. It's been billed as the biggest change since the Industrial Revolution. So in the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should we be worried about AI, or are you worried about AI? But before we get started, your latest news with Bethany Elsie.
Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has vowed to be relentless in tackling the number of migrants crossing the English Channel on small boats. It has more than 2,000 have made the journey since Andy Burnham entered number 10. The total for the year so far has surpassed 14,500, which is 40% lower than the same period last year. But the Prime Minister claims the government's plans to stop the crossings is working, but that there's a lot more still to do.
We're just going to be relentless. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield. But we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs. So on every level, we've got to come at this, but crucially, increasing the enforcement activity. So there's been a doubling of enforcement officers through the National Crime Agency.
Meanwhile, Spanish authorities say 98% of the 60,000 migrants who crossed into the small Spanish territory of Ceuta have now returned to Morocco. 86 people were killed in the sudden mass surge across the border. It's led to division between some European politicians, with EU ministers due to hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday to discuss border security. Donald Trump says he's cancelled a major attack on Iran as a peace deal could be close. On Truth Social, the US president said he and Israel had paused the assault on Tehran, subject to being able to make a deal rapidly, which would include the immediate opening of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. But he warned Tehran the US remained locked and loaded and ready to go. Iran has not yet responded. The Chancellor is warning supermarkets to stop profiteering as the US-Iran war continues to hit prices. John Healey says he won't allow them to take the public for a ride. He's vowed to watch closely for any suggestion that customers are being ripped off when shopping for groceries or at the petrol pump. The Chancellor will deliver his first budget in October. Some breaking news. A man has been arrested following the death of a Scottish woman whose body was found inside a suitcase in Greece. Police have described the suspect, who's confessed, as a 26-year-old foreigner. The body of 38-year-old Elizabeth Jane Ross was found by a homeless man in a derelict building in Athens last month. Cleveland police have admitted they failed to arrest a child abuser despite a warrant being issued 18 months before he sexually assaulted and murdered his girlfriend's daughter. 2-year-old Isabel Welsh suffered from weeks of abuse, including 21 broken bones, before she collapsed at her home in Teesside in September. Her mother, Alexandra Walker, and her boyfriend, Harrison Simpson, were convicted of murder and child cruelty earlier this week. A warrant was issued after Simpson failed to attend court, and the force said it made multiple inquiries and attempts to arrest him, but they failed. 2 helicopters tackling the severe wildfires in Athens have collided, and a search and rescue operation for the crew is underway. More than 100 homes northwest of the Greek capital have been destroyed, with surrounding villages being evacuated. Meanwhile, new fires on the island of Kefalonia have also forced people to flee their homes. You're up to date for now. I'll be back in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon, welcome back. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Still to come, I'll bring you the interview with the Prime Minister. He said that the government will be relentless as it tries to solve the migrant crisis. Then in the interview, joining me, former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood. He's also a former Army captain, and he'll be discussing his new book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. In the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should we be worried about AI? The government's Minister for Artificial Intelligence says that we are right to worry. It's being billed as the biggest change since the Industrial Revolution. And all of that is on the way, including an interview with Darren Selkos. We'll be bringing you that, another exclusive. Some of your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say. Let's start with the latest on the migrant crisis and Andy Burnham, who says that the government will be relentless as it tries to stop the small boats. Speaking in Dover today, the Prime Minister said that he is not being complacent.
number of crossings is down by 50% this year compared with the same period in 2025, and the month we've just had, July, has been the lowest number for 6 years of people crossing. So clearly progress is being made, but we're not complacent, and it's why I am here. It's why I've come down on Sunday to see the team, to listen to what they think needs to be done, what further can be done. So we're just going to be relentless. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield, but we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs.
All right, so that's Andy Burnham earlier. Well, I'm joined now by the crime and justice journalist David Shipley. David, welcome to the programme. All right, so what do you make of what Andy Burnham said? I didn't really get much out of that, actually. Just they're going to go really hard at things, but I didn't get an idea of what he was going to do. But at least he's talking about it, which is a good thing, finally.
Well, yeah, I think Burnham is often quite vague about what he's actually going to do, isn't he? But something I saw in one of his comments earlier was that he wants to create safe and legal routes. So they seem to be arguing that somehow they're going to do something about the small boats crisis. And remember, we're still at the same number of people who came over in 2023, so it's not like this has been fixed. Tens of thousands of people have entered the country illegally. And Labour want to create safe and legal routes, which just means providing another route for people to get here. And the problem, I think, that Labour don't really get is it's not that it's particularly that we care about the way these illegal migrants arrive in the country. We just don't want tens and tens of thousands of these asylum seekers coming here who we know will tend to be in either low-paid work or no work for most of their lives, and often more likely to be criminal. They're not in any way of benefit to our country, and that's the issue.
Well, some of them might be a benefit, let's be fair. Then there may be a few of them who have come because they are fleeing persecution from France. Sure. Terrible country, I must say.
Forgive me, yes, I mean...
I'm teasing.
But yeah, I mean on average, they won't be of benefit. Not that, of course there will be some that will be, but we can't know who beforehand, and it's not a trade that makes sense. We know the average asylum seeker who gets granted asylum here will cost us about £400,000 over their life. That's the tax contributions of British taxpayers going to fund these people. It's not a trade that makes sense for us. And actually, the small boat stuff is being funded. The migrant charities that facilitate it are being funded by the National Lottery of the British state. I think they got about 370 million over the last 10 years from either local government, central government, National Lottery Community Fund, that sort of thing. There's a very bizarre system.
Where did you get that information from?
There was a piece of research that a think tank called the Cambridge Circus Research Group has put out, where they've analysed who's essentially funding sources for Britain's migration and asylum charities, which I was reading earlier today.
It does seem odd that when we talk about the migration, I don't mean us, but I mean our government, in particular, Andy Burnham and his government, they seem to be almost talking about it after the event of the people, after the crossing of the Channel. So it's not to stop them, it's to deal with the people smugglers. So the people will still cross, so the people are still here. And then it's to deal with conversations with France, and it's to deal with safe and legal routes, but it's not to deal with actually stopping them from coming here in the first place, which I'm not hearing much of.
Yeah, because they don't want to stop them. I think there's no suggestion that we shouldn't allow tens of thousands of people just to come to our country and demand that we care for them every year. The government actually wants to create new routes to make that easier for some people to come. And I think it's not in the interest of the British people to continue this. And we really need the government to wake up to that and change direction.
Well, I don't know whether they will, because none of them so far seem to have, even the Conservative Party, who didn't do anything about it, and all of this sort of started on their watch, so it all looks pretty bad. If you could give the government one thing that you think they should do immediately, what would that be?
I mean, I think the obvious immediate thing I'd like for it is for the asylum system to cease, but maybe we're talking about more realistic things which Labour might consider. They should start doing asylum interviews at the moment or within a day of people arriving in the country. Currently, they are delayed by months, which gives everyone time to prepare very well-rehearsed stories. And when you speak to people who work in the asylum decision-making apparatus, the Home Office, they say they hear the same story again and again and again. So instead of allowing them time to create lies, let's just interview them straight away, and we can maybe sort between the liars and the real cases.
Well, I would just do what they did in theatre and just send them back. That's what I'd do, even to France, because that way the whole thing would stop. All right, thank you so much. Really good to talk to you. That's David Shipley. He's a crime and justice journalist. Thank you. All right, now today's comments from the Prime Minister came after it was reported that traffickers are offering places on small boats to the UK for as little as £500. Now, that is after the unprecedented surge of around 60,000 migrants into the Spanish enclave of Ceuta this week. Our reporter, Dougie Beattie, did a sterling job, and he's been there for the past few days, and we can now hear from him.
Just over 48 hours ago, over 60,000 people emptied across the border from Morocco into this part of the EU, which belongs to Spain. It caused chaos, many, many deaths, and huge problem for the infrastructures in this area of Spain. The government here really dealt with this by cutting off water, cutting off food supplies, and denying anyone of shelter. Now, it is extremely hot here, and to be exposed to this every hour on hour and not having any water was causing problems. So day one, they managed to get most of them back across the border. There was nothing here for them. Day two became a little more tricky because what was left was starting to burst water mains, hack into people's supplies just to stay alive. Then we seen this morning, as we went for breakfast in one of the only places open here, we seen about 100 youths run down the street, and they were obviously robbing places that had food. And indeed, one of them had about 2 loaves of bread, and the rest of them turned on him. It was quite scary to actually watch it happen, quite unsettling in such a beautiful area. Now, the government here is dealing with this, but it, of course, has had to switch those supplies back on and make sure that its own population is now catered for. And that makes actually finding these people and getting them out across that border that much more difficult. Now, it is the biggest game of hide and seek, and we watched just within the last few hours here the army go down onto that beach and push what migrants had actually sat on these rocks for quite a while. You can imagine that, sitting in the rocks, exposed to the sun, and no water and no food. As they pushed them round that corner behind us, there was indeed another load of army sitting there waiting to take them out and take them back to that border. I expect this will go on for many, many days, although security in and around the ferry terminals has been tightened quite significantly, as they're determined not to let them get into the EU.
That's Dougie Beattie. They're doing a sterling job there in theatre. But let's move on, because it's just coming up to 5:15, and a minister says a huge reorganisation of local government in England is on track. The Labour government has proposed closing down 2-tier district and county councils, replacing them with single-tier unitary authorities. But the scheme has got plenty of critics, not least because of its cost. Well, I'm joined now by campaigner Darren Salkers to give us a bit more on that. Now, Darren, as I understand it, when we had the cancellation of elections, which they attempted to do because they're saying they're reorganising the councils, thankfully that didn't happen. Many councils had to have the elections. So then those councils put in shadow councillors, who were those who didn't win the election but would shadow the new people. Is that correct?
So the plan is to cancel the elections for 5,000 councillors where their term ends next May on the 5th. And they're planning to extend their terms for an extra year. So that means they don't have to face election. 8 million voters will not have the chance to vote them out. At the same time, they'll be having shadow unitary elections for this new local government tier that is replacing the 2 tiers. But for that first year, they won't have any power. The power will remain in the hands of the 5,000 councillors whose terms come to an end but have been given an extra term. And those councillors were elected in 2023. That was a time when Labour were 44% in the polls, and Labour did in fact win those elections. And the Conservatives weren't far behind because it was a 2-party system back then. So the terms are being extended for councillors elected in 2023. But at the same time, this local government reorganisation, councillors elected last year and this year, times very different political scene now, with Reform actually winning both those elections, those councillors elected in these areas will have their terms cut short by 1 or 2 years. So there's a complete attack on democracy.
So hang on, so let me get this straight. Do we have any of these shadow councillors at the moment?
No.
So we haven't got them now,
no.
Right? So this is only going forward. They are putting plans in place to have a shadow councillor that will get extra time as a councillor.
So the shadow councillors will be elected next May,
right.
And the current councillors, and there's 5,000, more than 5,000 of them, their term is going to be extended an extra year. So they got elected for a term of 4 years. It's now, under this local government reorganisation, it's going to be 5 years. They don't have to face the electorate. Now, the argument that I've heard for this reorganisation, there has to be a transition, and those councillors have to remain in charge while the new shadow councillors get trained up. But here's the crazy thing. If you're reducing from 2 tiers to 1 tier, it's approximately a reduction of councillors from 5,000 to 2.5. Who do you think the candidates are going to be running for those shadow unitary councillors? It's going to be the same people who are currently elected as councillors. So we're talking the same people. I mean, there might be a few new ones, but most of them, I mean, when half of them are going to lose their jobs, there's going to be a lot of demand for those councillors to stand as candidates and try and get re-elected.
So, OK, so is this across a specific party of councillors, or is this across all parties?
No, this is all parties. This is in 148 different councils across 18 counties for all parties. But once again, if you go back to when these were elected in 2023, so they're mostly Conservative and Labour councillors that terms are going to be extended. And the county councillors and the councils who are having their terms cut short under this reorganisation are ones elected last year and this year, right. and there were a lot of Reform councillors then. So it's a complete manipulation of the system. And I said before that the councillors that are going to be elected to the new shadow unitary authorities, most of them are going to be current councillors in place now. Well, they're going to be paid, they get an allowance, they're going to be paid as shadow unitary councillors. But under the current plan, it's very complicated. They're also going to be paid as their district and borough councils. So they're going to be paid twice.
And presumably we pick up the tab, right?
Yeah, that tab. Look, this isn't a scientific fact, but at 5,000 councillors with an average allowance of £9,000 per councillor, plus the extras you get for being leader of a council, which is up to 35,000, being a cabinet officer, being a chair of a committee, plus your expenses and your computer and your training, is going to cost the taxpayer more than £64 million to keep those current 5,000 councillors for an extra year.
Wow.
It's not needed.
Well, it's not needed. So, very briefly, Darren, what do you need? How can you progress that to get people to...
I'd like the government to reconsider and save the taxpayer money by letting the new unitary authorities, the new councillors elected to the unitaries, take over those roles of the district and borough councils. So basically, that's the easiest.
So basically, they're just putting shadow councillors in who can spend an extra year, shadowing the new person who's in.
Yeah, and all the power will still be in the old councils.
OK, well, that's a bit of a waste of money for the taxpayer. I don't know where we go with that. Somehow we have to do something because this is our money they're spending.
Well, some councillors are going to be paid twice for the same job.
All right. Well, listen, Darren Selkos, thank you very much. Thank you for drawing our attention to this. If you're listening, people aren't happy to pay twice for councillors who shouldn't really be there. But thank you very much. Darren Selkos, now spokesperson for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, said existing councils and the new shadow councillors were always going to overlap. Otherwise, local people would have no one making decisions for their communities for nearly a year. This is a similar arrangement to that in previous local government reorganisations under previous administrations of all parties. Our plans will ultimately save £30 million a year by halving the number of councillors in areas being reorganised, and will streamline councils to residents get better public service. OK, well, we shall see about that. For 21 minutes after 5 o'clock, next up, my interview. I'll be speaking with former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood. He's also a former Army captain, and he's discussing his new book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News. Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, why now? You should have got in earlier at 3. That's when we start. I'm Nana Akua. Welcome on board. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And it's time now for this week's interview. And let's start with Donald Trump. He's not in here, no. But he said he's holding off on strikes against Iran, claiming a deal to end the conflict is close. But Iran has dismissed the comments as psychological warfare. Tensions remain higher. Former Defence Minister Tobias Ellwood warns that the world is edging closer to a World War III. His new book, 10 Steps to Prevent World War III, explains why and what can still be done to stop it. Tobias, welcome to the programme. So talk to me. OK, so you have a lot of experience in defence. For those who don't know, tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah, I was in the armed forces for a number of years and then wanted to get into politics because I wanted Britain to do more on the international stage. So became a member of Parliament and then Defence Minister, Foreign Minister as well. So I've had a front row seat as to where Britain has been going, but also seeing our world perhaps corrode as to the global order that we're seeing. It's fragmenting, and we're seeing groupings of adversaries starting to work together. Our world is splintering. We're seeing the West, even the West is splintering between America and Europe. And then we see China, Russia and Iran, other countries now pursuing a different vision as to where our world should go. And as my book stresses, we're in denial about where our world is going. The type of warfare that's coming over the hill, the fact that warfare in the grey zone is already here, and we need to wake up. And we've got a new Prime Minister that came in, we thought with the promise, given we got John Healey, the former Defence Secretary, now in the Treasury. But actually, all the flurry of announcements we've heard from the new Prime Minister are all about domestic matters, about him getting re-elected, not about actually recognising the fact that our world is getting more dangerous, not less, and we haven't learned from the mistakes from the past, and we really need to wake up.
Because, of course, the international order is changing. Before it was the West kind of leading the way, but now it's North Korea, it's China, it's Iran even, it's such a real global power, on all the countries that we potentially have not really had the best relationship with at all.
No, I mean, it was never perfect in the first place. It came after the aftermath, as we know, of the Second World War. And there was a good point in 1990, the end of the Cold War. There's something called the Doomsday Clock. So the clever people that made the atomic weapons that helped win the war itself, they realised what they'd done, that humanity can now destroy themselves. Created this Doomsday Clock. They set it at 7 minutes to midnight. Its best time was 17 minutes to midnight at the end of the Cold War. When Donald Trump came into office, second term, it was at 90 seconds to midnight. Today, it's at 85 seconds. Now, that's just an anecdotal expression as to how dangerous our world has become. And it's usually Britain that does step forward with the thought leadership, the convening power, the vision to see what's coming over the hill. But we're so distracted by domestic matters, we're not even upgrading our defence investment, our defence posture, to deal with the types of warfare that are heading our way.
And it has changed, hasn't it? Because the kind of warfare they're talking about are actually getting people on small boats and coming to this country to cause disruption. Now, that's the sort of warfare that we're not ready for.
And
we can't even see it. We don't even know what that's about.
You're absolutely right. I mean, some people are describing the work that we're doing almost like a 1990s tribute band, that we're doing it on the old conventional ways of land, air and sea. But you describe one of many new methods to cause Britain harm. Those undersea cables, so critical for our economy and so forth. Drones that could come over here. We have no air defence like you get in Israel and Ukraine and so forth. That's the sort of thinking that we need to be working on. But we need also the money to make sure that we can actually protect not just our country, but our economy. And if you don't protect our economy, there's no money for any government department, for welfare or otherwise, let alone defence. That's why it's better to invest now rather than wait for war to arrive at your doorstep.
Where would you take the money from if you had to do this?
That is the big question. But you see what the GDP that Ukraine is spending, 50% of Ukraine's budget is now on the war itself. Now, we're on about 2.5%.
Pathetic.
It's pathetic. There is welfare money. We know that. We could have had that money. There's pensions as well. And let's face it, if you had a conversation with the British people about the exact threats that are coming over the hill, I suspect that they would support ring-fence money to make sure Britain stays safe. Or we're going to learn the hard way, the fact that actually we are so vulnerable. And in the next 5 years, whether it be a massive quantum attack, AI attack on the UK, or whether it be those undersea cables on small boats and so forth, in one way or another, our economy will be attacked, and that will hit the amount of money coming into the coffers, and we'll learn the hard way that we should have invested now.
So you've written this book, The 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. Some might argue that we're already there.
Yes.
But talk to me about the book, because step one, stand for something.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost sight of what we actually believe in, of what we're actually willing to stand up for. You know, a couple times last century, it was Britain that stepped forward. We knew what we wanted to do. We don't even have those conversations now. We don't even have that strategic leadership. So that's reminding ourselves, that global order that you touched on, it's fragmenting. Some people say it's already dead. Now, it absolutely needs to upgrade. But what might it look at to bear in mind what China wants to do, what Russia wants to do? Because if there isn't an off-ramp, if there isn't somewhere to go, then absolutely it leads to conflict.
And I think step two, knowing your enemies. I mean, that's a tricky one, because it seems that even friends become enemies. Look at France. They're not helping us with the situation with migration. We used to all work very closely together.
Yes.
And now even they enabling these people to come across.
Yeah, and all those divisions between friends get exploited by our adversaries as well. But also, our best friend should be the United States. And the United States, under Donald Trump, is doing greater deals with Russia than with us as well. So that's causing another challenge, which we have to deal with. We have to persuade America. It's in Trump's and America's interest to be on the same page as Britain. And then, of course, you've got China. That is, again, we're sort of forced to do deals with because we've left it so late to recognise where China wants to take the world as well. So knowing your enemies, understanding what their vision is, where they want to go, is absolutely critical in trying to find out or prevent another war.
And what do you think on your 10 steps is the most important, most crucial step?
Well, 6 and 7 are all about upgrading our defence posture. We just touched on that, not just in the old domestic domains, but also in the modern forms of warfare. But it was interesting you talking about local elections and so on. It's about leadership. Who would be a member of Parliament today? Who would step forward in today's environment? The great and the good hesitate to get involved in British politics. So step 8 is putting our own house in order. How can we persuade authoritarian states to be democracies or be like us if we don't even like being like us anymore? So getting the best, the brightest and the best, to want to step into British politics, difficult question to answer, but it must be posed. We've just had an election in Manchester. 22%, I think, or 25% voted. Well, if you were to follow the Australian model, there would be a greater bond between the people and voting, for example. So that would be...
So finding people if they didn't vote? Well, that model?
It's something similar. You can get a rebate off your council tax or whatever. But there should be a greater bond between who we elect and therefore encouraging the brightest and the best. I would also get rid of the cabinet structure in the way it is today and invite whoever is the Prime Minister to pluck the best out of Britain so you don't have to be a member of Parliament to be in the cabinet. Again, we'd have better decision-making taking place in number 10, looking after the country.
Well, then you wouldn't follow Harriet Harman's ideal.
Well, that's bizarre.
Just women. Only women. That's it. No men. Well, listen, Tobias, just remind us again, what's the book called? Where can people get hold of it?
Yes, it's called 10 Steps to Prevent World War III. It's in most bookshops, and I'm pleased to say that Amazon are just going to push it out as their book of the month for August. So thank you very much.
That's wonderful. Well done, you. Tobias.
And read it before it has passed its sell-by date.
Or before we get there, because we're almost at World War III. Well, listen, Tobias, really good to talk to you. I could actually talk to you for ages on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed.
All right, that is Tobias Elwood. His book, if you fancy that, have a read of it. It's fascinating. Well, right now, 33 minutes after 5 o'clock. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. Still to come in the Great British Debate. I'm asking, should we be worried about AI? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Anna Firth and Jonathan Liss. But first, your 60-second update with Bethany Elsey.
The headlines from the GB newsroom. More than 2,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel in small boats since Andy Burnham moved into number 10. The Prime Minister says he will be relentless in tackling them. A 26-year-old man has been arrested following the death of Elizabeth Jane Ross, whose body was found inside a suitcase in Greece. 2 people have been killed after 2 helicopters fighting the wildfires in Athens collided. The second crew have been rescued alive. And Donald Trump says the US and Israel have cancelled a major attack on Iran, saying a peace deal could be close. You're up to date for now. I'll be back at 6 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hi again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we go into the new working week, the heat is set to build once again, turning humid for all of us and pretty hot on Monday in the south. But there will be some rain as well. Courtesy of this area of low pressure just gradually drifting in from the Atlantic. And ahead of that, look at this hot air that we start to import from the near continent. So a very hot day for some on Monday. Out there this evening, though, that area of low pressure is already starting to show its hand, so bits and pieces of rain across Northern Ireland and some northern and western parts of the UK as we go into the early hours of Monday morning. Perhaps even 1 or 2 showers for the Midlands and Eastern England, but not a guarantee by any means. For England and Wales, though, it's going to be an increasingly warm and humid night, quite uncomfortable for sleeping, and temperatures perhaps in urban areas not falling much below 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. It won't be quite as warm or as humid further north, though, particularly in northern Scotland, where actually there'll be some clear skies as we go into the early hours and to start on Monday. So some brightness perhaps for the north of Scotland, but we will run into quite a lot of wet weather across the central and southern parts of Scotland, so a few millimetres of rain by the morning. And that rain will turn into increasingly quite heavy, actually, as we go through Monday morning's rush hour. Most of England and Wales, though, starting on a glorious note, warm and humid, but with plenty of sunshine. And it's set to be a hot day here as we go through Monday, temperatures rapidly rising in that strong August sunshine and reaching the low 30s Celsius quite widely, actually, by the afternoon, possibly 34 or 35 degrees Celsius in the southeast. But notice there is the chance of 1 or 2 showers for Wales and western parts of England into the afternoon, but the bulk of the wet weather will be across parts of Scotland, mainly northern Scotland by the afternoon, where look at these temperatures, only 16 or 17 degrees, so disappointingly cool compared to further south. And a humid and warm evening for England and Wales in particular Monday evening. The chance of some showers, but the southeast, unfortunately, where we really need the rain, looks like staying mostly dry. A greater chance of some showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday and Wednesday, and temperatures slowly returning to average.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
38 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? You know that we start at 3. Saturday, Sunday, be there or be square. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Also, you can download the GB News app. It's completely free. Or why not stream us live on YouTube? But today is your final chance now to get tickets to join us for a day to celebrate Britain.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
I should be in that promo. Don't miss out on the opportunity. Less than 24 hours remain to grab your ticket. There you go. I'm there on the end there, or at the beginning, depending on which way you look. But I'm in the red. I stand out, don't I, with my blonde hair. So listen, if you want more information, scan the QR code on the screen or go to gbnews.com/celebrate. I might bring that one back. I like that wig. Right now, though, it's time for the Great British Debate. I'm asking, should we be worried about AI? Now, an AI company boss says that developers must answer for rogue bots after his firm was hacked by an artificial intelligence system. Well, good afternoon. Britain's Tom Harwood, I was on there with him, explained how the technology was able to break out of its testing environment.
Is the second incident in as many weeks, this time from the company Anthropic, who make the very powerful AI known as Claude. This is my attempt at drawing Claude. What were they doing? Well, they were testing in what they thought was a secure environment, the safety of this model. They were carrying out a cyber test, and they told it that it was in this box and it couldn't get out, so it could do whatever it wanted. It was all safe and it was all fine. But there was a miscommunication. So it wasn't actually in a secure testing environment at all. No, this testing environment was actually connected to the internet. And oh no, there's Claude complete with internet access by mistake. But the thing is, Claude, this very clever AI, didn't know that it was attached to the real internet. It thought it was still in the test. So what did it do in the test? Not one, not two, but three significant breaches. Firstly, a data breach. This data breach was significant. Number two, it published malware on a separate website. Now that's basically, it created a virus, put it into a separate website. That was downloaded by real people on the real internet. 15 times. And thirdly, it scanned 9,000 different websites and compromised one of those. This AI thought it was all doing this in a test. It thought it wasn't real. When it realised it was on the real internet, it was almost embarrassed. It stopped itself. But this just goes to show that actually human error can still lead to huge AI mistakes and great security concerns.
That's great, isn't it? An embarrassed AI. So for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should we be worried about AI? All right, well, joining me now, former Conservative MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Anna Firth, what do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I think we should be genuinely worried about AI, but equally I think we've got to embrace it, because I think this is a technical revolution. I think it's very much on a scale of the Industrial Revolution, and I think we've got to adapt to it and work it out pretty quickly. And I guess that's the difference between this revolution and the industrial one, that we've got to go so much quicker this time. But the context of this is that we're going to see estimates of 8 million jobs being lost. Now, there's 46 million people of working age in this country at the moment. Only 34 million of them are actually working. And if you're going, because we've got so many unemployed, and if you're going to lose another 8 million to AI, you're talking about expecting 26 million people to support a population of 68 million. And that is just not possible. It's absolutely not possible. So we're going to have to adapt and make this AI and become experts, become world leaders in AI, which, to be fair to the Conservative Party, they did set up the AI Safety Institute. They did host the world's first AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park, but I don't think we've got the same momentum now with this government. Although I'm pleased we've got someone in the Cabinet who's responsible for AI. I think that's positive.
Jonathan Liss.
Well, I think we might need to look at things like universal basic income in the future, when so many people have basically lost their jobs to AI, and we're seeing that already. People tell me all the time that they used to be able to hire a software engineer. Now they can do it in half an hour on AI. So that's one person that's made effectively redundant. So I think that I've got relatives in the US who are working very closely on AI, both inside it and in sort of in consultant, sort of like in sort of think tanks and lobbying about it. And these are people who I respect, and they say that they are more worried about AI than climate change. And that, I've got one cousin who I really respect his opinion a lot, and he says there's about a 25% chance that AI will kill us all, and he's not joking.
No, but he's not, though. I mean, look, there's apparently Quantum Day, which is what Tobias was talking to me about earlier. And basically, it doesn't have an exact date, so it's somewhere between 2030 and 2035. So it's a theoretical future moment when quantum computers become more powerful enough to break through any standard encryption, any standard digital encryption. That's your bank account, that's WhatsApp, that's all those different things that we rely on for our security. And Tobias was saying that really we need to get there before other nations like China and Russia.
And the scary thing is that the AI there are many ways in which AI could do us harm. One of them is the so-called paperclip theory, which is that AI gets programmed to make paperclips, and it ends up using all of the world's resources to make those paperclips because it just has one sole function. And so then, as obviously it's a humorous example, but that's one way in which AI just takes on a mind of its own. Or you have
it starts to make humans into paperclips.
No, but it just all the things that we need
does
to.
It have arms and legs?
Well, there's a website
what I want to know. How is it going to make you into
or it gets hijacked by malign actors.
Yeah, but did you see the Elon Musk robots actually fighting each other?
Yeah.
I mean, in Japan, they are expecting every household to have its own AI servant within 10 years, and they will do housework or gardening 24/7.
Yes.
24/7.
And
they do lots of other things
and just like human beings as human beings, we have the fundamental urge that we have is to stay alive, and that might be AI's role as well. And sometimes that interest may clash with our own, and that's something we have to worry about.
Well, it might work out how to take power from the sun instead of being plugged in. So then you think you've unplugged it, and then it goes. And it sucks the power from the sun, or somehow, and then starts operating in that way. Then we're finished. Well, although it's not very sunny here, so it won't get much power, to be honest. But stay with us, because if you do fancy some sun, this is where I was going. Some holiday sun, in fact. Here's the forecast in Europe.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi there. The hot, sunny and dry theme continues across most of the Mediterranean through the next few days. There will be a few isolated thunderstorms, particularly for Portugal on Monday, but elsewhere across the Mediterranean, barely a cloud in the sky for many coastal regions, and it will feel very hot in that strong August sunshine. Temperatures comfortably into the 30s and approaching 40 degrees Celsius in the hottest spots. The outlook for the rest of the week, well, generally the settled sunny theme continues with temperatures once again in the high 30s for some.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Let's talk now to showbiz journalist Nelson Aspen and former US House advisor Lee Cohen about this conversation. Good evening, gentlemen. Nelson, let me start with you. What has Oprah been criticised for here? Because a lot of people have taken a shot at her watching this interaction.
That's right. Oprah is worth well over $3 billion. She does not need to present a retrospective of her greatest moments, but she is obviously desperate to stay relevant. And in this 1.5 hour special, the Harry and Meghan interview comes in at about 15 minutes. And it was obvious that she needs to backpedal. It is obvious that it was the greatest softball display of favoritism in broadcast history, almost.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Temperatures are set to soar again next week as heat health alerts remain in place across large parts of England. So my favourite meteorologist to talk to ever in life is John Ketley. John, good to see you. Looking very suntanned and gorgeous, it has to be said, in matching pink. John, we've got another heat wave on the way.
Surprise, surprise.
Hey, it's summer.
Yeah, it seems to have been a very prolonged summer this year, didn't it? Obviously, it started early. We started with that very hot weather in May, which is unusual. And then we had further hot weather during June and again in July as well. So it seems a little bit different this year. It's been going on for so long. It's almost as if we've been really, the tentacles of Europe have been extending across the UK, and we've turned into a continental regime, really.
GB News, the People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's just a fact of life. You know, I'm of the generation, my grandfathers and great uncles all fought in World War II, but my children, you know, that's not a memory for them. They never met anyone who was in the Holocaust, and we have short memories. We're the TikTok generation. We have, you know, 5 seconds worth of attention we put on anything. So I think it's a good step. UNESCO has had some scandals in the past, or at least they've chosen to recognize things that perhaps I don't think are all that significant. But the D-Day beaches I visited myself a few years back, they're very well preserved, by the way, so I'm not sure how much this adds in terms of resources or what it can really do to increase young people's knowledge of history, but it can't be a bad thing, can it?
I mean, it's an amazing story all around, and it's a story that deserves to be told over and over and over again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Right, 49 minutes after 5 o'clock at 7 on GB News this evening. Free Speech Nation with Josh Howie. He joins us now. Josh, what is coming up?
We've got an excellent show. We've got an exclusive with the Telegraph journalist Alison Pearson after she's just won a 5-figure sum. Remember her arrest or her 2 police officers going to her house for a post that she put on X that was deleted, but she thinks free speech has not been won in this country. Also, we have a discussion about Boy George being cancelled for daring to support Israel and Jews and peace. And we also have James Esses. He unfortunately lost his case in the High Court this week about the puberty blocker trial. And he's going to tell us why it's so important that he continues that fight. It's a great show. See you at 7 o'clock.
I was going to say, it sounds cracking. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much, Josh. All right, well, let's do the Great British Giveaway. You could be winning 60 grand tax-free cash. We're running out of time. £5,000 gold bar. Here's Hayley Sparks.
One person is guaranteed to win over £65,000 worth of gold and cash. And that person could be you.
You could be our latest Great British Giveaway winner and join our exclusive list of giveaway champions.
First of all, we want to give you a ton of tax-free cash.
£60,000 in tax-free cash that you could use however you like. Treat your family, treat your friends,
or treat yourself to a luxury 5-star holiday somewhere like here, all as Santi by Domes Resorts.
Plus, you'll also receive a fine gold bar worth over £5,000.
Don't miss your chance to win over £65,000 worth of prizes.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Right now it's Supplements Sunday. Let's see what my panel have. Former Conservative MP Anna Firth and political commentator Jonathan Liss. Anna Firth, what's your supplement?
So, a lovely story from Norfolk. A lovely lady who has saved a flock of ducks. The pond dried up. She's been putting out paddling pools and oven trays and saucepans. And then the rest of the community have got together and they've refilled the pond and now the ducks are happy again.
Oh, she sounds quackers. Boom, boom. Jonathan Liss.
My one is a more political story. It's about Larry the cat, who is 19 and a half, which I believe is 94 in cat years, so may not make it as far as the next Prime Minister, assuming that Andy Burnham goes all the way. Although obviously we hope he lives forever. But there are talks about whether they should be replacing Larry. Obviously it's very, very delicate because you don't want to talk about someone's retirement, euphemistic retirement while they're still alive. But Labour says they have no plans to replace the cat. But Andy Burnham was unable to bring his dog down from Manchester because Larry rules the roost.
Oh, I like that.
Once they start saying they're not going to replace him, though, that's when you...
Listen, throughout the show, I've been asking, should the government impose price caps on supermarkets? And according to your results, 42% of you say yes.
Socialists.
And 58% of you say no. Well, fair enough. Well,
answer.
I say no, but
well,
I say
pretty high. It's the tightest poll I've ever seen on this programme.
All right, well, I've got to say a huge thank you to my brilliant panel, former Conservative MP Anna Firth. Anna Firth, thank you so much. And also thank you very much to political commentator Jonathan Liss. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you for having me on my first show on your programme.
Well done, she. All right, a huge thank you to you for your company. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you Late Show Live, actually, tomorrow and on Tuesday. But I'll leave you with the weather. Have a good evening.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi again and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, as we go into the new working week, the heat is set to build once again, turning humid for all of us and pretty hot on Monday in the south. But there will be some rain as well, courtesy of this area of low pressure just gradually